This is a Miami Sports Music Podcast Network production. This is the #1 Miami fan morning show. Clock Blockers, let's go.
I know the whole city riding. A little early, it's a bit surprising. Business moves, now we enterprising. Switch it up, now we improvise.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, Stephen D, and we are live on the #1 Miami fan morning show. Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Super excited that y'all are here with me. Want to say good morning to my Finlaws, my family with a PH. How y'all doing today? I'm your host, Stephen D. Stephen Daniels. You can follow me on all social media at Stephen D SKPL. Spread kindness, positivity, and love. I wonder if when I say that, y'all are out there saying the words with me. Spread kindness, positivity, and love. I just had that thought. I'm like, I say that. That's like what I say all the time in the morning. I wonder how many people actually say the line with me. Spread kindness, positivity, and love. You can also follow Miami Sports Music on all social media platforms at Miami Sports Music and on Twitter at MIA Sports Music. You can also, when on your way in, make sure you hit the like button. Hit it. Tap it, whatever you got to do to it. Just make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, it's free. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. So make sure you guys do that. It's a big deal. And make sure you hit the like button. Even bigger deal. Okay. Make sure you all do that today. Join now. Sign up to become a member today. There are plenty of seats waiting at the table for you. I would love to see you sign up and become a member today. Join the family. Again, family. I used to be able to do the Vin Diesel voice really good. I don't do it as well anymore. But I would love to see you sign up and become a member today. Become part of the family. All right. Make sure you all do that. All right. Help the channel grow by donating. Lots of different ways you can do that. You can use the YouTube live super chat, which is the $ below the bottom of the chat. Okay. It's in the square box with the little circle, a rectangle box with the circle in it. Just hit that. You can use a super chat or a super sticker. Somebody wants to do one right now just so that they can see exactly how that works, get an idea for it. It's called a super chat or a super sticker. You can donate that way. You guys can also do, if you're rewatching this, a YouTube Super Thanks, which is a heart with a $ in the middle. You guys can do that there as well. You can also donate two other ways, which is always appreciated, on Cash App or PayPal, which is $ MSM Podcast Network, or use the QR code that's right on your screen, or PayPal, which is also MSM Podcast Network, and use the QR code right on your screen. I do want to remind you that the Super Bowl box pool is opening and starting to fill up a little bit slowly, but hey, the Super Bowl box pool, $25 per block. If you're interested, get in where you fit in. At the end of the first quarter, halftime, end of the third quarter, in the final score, you will get a chance to win some money, and and you will also get a chance to help the channel grow, as well as donate to a great cause in the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. We're going to donate a portion of the proceeds that are made to the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. Only two ways you can enter into this: Cash App and PayPal. MSM Podcast Network. When you send the money in the message area, please put your name and box numbers. Do not write box pool in it. Just make sure you put your name and box numbers in it. So that way I know who you are, and I can put you in the box numbers that you are interested in. So Big Dougie B, William Perry, if you're watching, I need to get one more numbers from each of you. I need to write that down. So if William Perry and Big Dougie B are watching, I need one more number. So, because you guys paid $50. Originally, this was a $50 box pool. We changed it to try to get more people into it. So it's $25 per block, and a portion of the proceeds will go to the podcast network. So hopefully we can get that thing filled up before next week and get the numbers out there, and you guys will know what numbers to look out for during the game. Well, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors of the show, ZSM Sports. ZSM Sports, the #1 place to get your cards, jerseys, balls, and hard-to-find items. Make sure you all do that today, okay? Make sure you get that, all right? ZSM Sports. Make sure you follow them on Instagram at SportsZSM. He's got a lot of autograph signings coming up. Make sure you guys go check him out. Hangry Owls, good food, good mood, craft subs and salads. Hangry Owls, they got great desserts there too. you guys want to go check them out, they're in Pembroke Pines, Florida, 305-279-5332. Shout out to Hangry Owls. Make sure you give them a follow at Hangry Owls, HANGRYALS. Vezasor. We love some Vezasor, the official beer of Clock Blockers. Born and raised, a beer created for the fans by the fans. Vezasor Brewing Company in Wynwood, Miami, Florida. Make sure you guys go check them out. Really good stuff there. And a great place to sit.com. You need tickets to the best concerts, sporting events, or theater in the world. Well, great place to sit.com is the way to go. Why is that? Because the price you see is the price you get. There's no ticket or service fees at checkout. So the price you see when you're going to look for ticket prices, those are the price. That's the price you get. But here's the best part. If you give me a call at 954-989-7979, use the code word DWA, you will get an additional 5% off on your tickets. So make sure you do that today. All right. And then last but not least, Tail Greeter. We love Tail Greeter. Download the app today on your current Apple or Android device. My one nice thing about Apple today. What am I going to say nice about Apple today? For those of you who don't watch the show on a regular basis, I have to say something nice about Apple for 30 days. I think I'm in day number 11 or something like that. Let's go. Apple has a really cool logo. I like the logo of Apple. It's cool. It's an apple, and it looks like it has a bite out of it. But if you really take that little leaf on top and you put it on the side, it would fill in that. A lot of people don't realize that. It's a pretty cool logo. Okay. There's one nice thing about Apple today. There you go. There you go. Okay. One nice thing about Apple today. Make sure you download the free app of Tail Greeter on your phone today. And check out the tailgates that are closest to you. Football season might be over, but the tailgate never stops. NASCAR season is approaching. And for those of you who like NASCAR, which I do love me some NASCAR. And Tail Greeter is going to be a big part of a lot of events for NASCAR this year. So make sure you guys go check them out. All righty. Today's show is Throwback Thursday. We're going to be talking Pro Bowl games. We're just going to be, honestly, we're just going to be hanging out today. It's going to be a real chill show today. If y'all want to ask me a question, you guys can put it in the chat. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to hopefully have so normally on Thursdays we have Cameron on. Well, Cameron can't do it today, so Cameron's going to be on tomorrow. So normally tomorrow on Friday we have Jason Sarney. So I hit up Jason Sarney. I said, "Hey man, can you switch this morning?" And he's like, "Of course. Bring me in, coach. I'm ready to go. I don't need to be the closer this week. I can be the setup man, the guy in the eighth that gets ready for the closer." So without further ado, my brother from another mother, my co-host for today, Mr. Jason Sarney. What is up, man?
Doing next man up this morning, Steven. I'm ready to roll.
I know.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's Thursday. I honestly, today's a chill day. You know, I was talking with Allie yesterday after the show, Dolph Freaky, and we were just talking about off season and how crazy last off season was, and how this season's probably, like, don't get me wrong, we got the whole thing with Vic Fangio, and that's obviously a whole scenario in itself. But man, it's going to be a quiet off season, especially compared to last season. So I'm like, how do I fill up my time with content? And so I was like, today I'm going to talk a little bit about stupid stuff, like
I like
TV
stupid
shows
stuff.
and basketball and coaching and you know, just little stuff. So content can be hard on a Dolphins channel running a morning show during the off season, but we're gonna get through it, Jason. You and I and everybody.
I think we have a little bit to talk about.
We do have a little bit.
I mean, it's the Dolphins, off season, so there's always drama, and I think it's also self-created from the fan base because we all love to say, "Hey, we have the best situation in football for free agents, no taxes."
Caslin said Jason is here. That means I'm leaving.
I know Caslin. That's a little bit of a fun rib. I know that, but I hope so at least. But there's always something to talk about. Good. I know. There's always something to talk about for us Miami fans, and obviously this Vic Fangio thing. And I do ultimately think, because obviously we have to talk about that a little bit, but I do also believe that he's going to become a Dolphins defensive coordinator unless he just simply reneges on what was reported that he agreed to an offer. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he signed on the dotted line. I don't even want to get into all the...
He didn't sign on any dotted line yet, from what I know.
Correct.
Look, I've texted people that follow the team, and from everything I've been told, he's going to be the defensive coordinator here. So I'm not, unless that status quo changes, I'm not worried about it.
Correct.
Now, the fan base can get up in arms, and I understand why they are, but I'm not worried about it at all.
I'm not worried about it. I'm really actually not worried. I think the term is anxious. And I think that fans these days, they want things to happen yesterday.
We live in a world where if it doesn't happen right away, then it's not true.
Exactly. And there are things that tip the scale to saying that it's going to come to fruition, like no other interviews on tap for the Dolphins. I mean, if you start to hear like that, like a new name is being brought in to interview for the defensive coordinator position, then that's obviously, oh boy. Let's just hope that never comes to it. But I think I'll be in Miami. I think it's all just a matter of just getting the I's dotted and the T's crossed.
All right, we're going to get into more Dolphins content. I want to obviously talk about stuff that is actually meaningless in the world of football. But you and I share a common, we are assistant coaches for our son's basketball teams.
Tonight, baby.
So what's up, man? Tell me, how's your team doing? How are they looking?
I love the effort.
Are they as bad as our team?
You know what? They're improving.
We played 2 games and have scored a total of 4 points.
They are improving. We don't keep literal track of score.
We do. Both games were 22-2. Both games.
Okay, we got to work on that. We got to work on that differential. But
in the second half of the last Saturday's game, they only allowed the other team to score 4 points in the second half.
All right, so
we're getting better.
We're getting better.
Improvement. Okay.
I got to tell you a funny thing. I mean, a lot of these kids, and like there was a video floating around Twitter of like, I guess, third graders playing ball. Like, they're good, but they were doing all the mannerisms of like NBA players, and like it was cute to an extent.
It was cute to a certain extent, and then you realize, hold up.
But then when you get this like 10-year-old interrupting a kid's free throw just to say yo, like just to like do that was a little whatever. So anyway, what I'm getting to, got a couple of kids on the team that are really trying hard. That they dress the part. The arm sleeve, one sock up, one sock down.
Oh, they got the AI thing on the Allen Iverson.
They got the whole.
Thing. It's funny how Allen Iverson still plays a part of basketball culture all these years later.
It's terrific.
I love Allen Iverson.
I got this one kid. He's. You wouldn't think that he's going to be able to score a hoop. I mean, constant traveling, constant picking up, putting the ball down, double dribbles, whatever. And every time the shot's missed, there's the oh. So anyway, finally he gets a shot at. Kid walks down the court like this. Ready? Like he's pointing up. And I just almost lost it. I literally lost it. And I'm like doing like, yeah. And like, I'm like, oh my God. We are in such a horrible society in sports.
So how many kids are on your team? We have 8. We have 8 kids on our team.
We have 10. So we usually have a good 5-5 rotation. Sometimes we've gotten a little less.
We started out the year with 10, and now we're down to 8. Okay,
10 to 20% give up rule.
So we're now at 8. All right. So here's the thing, Jason. I have there's like 2 of these kids on the team that don't listen to They don't listen to nothing. So we're in practice trying to implement and trying to teach these kids, and they're wanting to like sing and dance and not pay attention, and they're looking the opposite way when coach is like trying to instill something. And we're just like, I'm not going to say their names. Pay attention. Go run a lap. If you're not going to pay attention. Like it. I'm like, I got to remember these are 7 and 8-year-old kids that have the attention span of nothing. But that's a little part for me that's new, because my son, I don't have patience for that kind of stuff. So I'm like, Steven, are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? Okay, good. So he knows to kind of look. But when you're dealing with other people's children,
it's tough.
I'm just going to take a deep breath, Jason. That's all I'm going to do is take a deep breath. And I have to look at some of the parents when the kids aren't listening, and I'm like, you need to do something with your kid before I say something.
There's a lot of, times I just bite the lip and just say, you know what? Just 12 minutes left to practice. Just get through it.
We have 90-minute practices.
We have an hour practice, and I don't know how you guys do the games, but we basically split quarters in half. So we do 8, segments.
It's 8-minute quarters. It's 8-minute quarters.
We do 8 5-minute little quarters. So we basically divide up. So each kid should get the equal amount of playing time, a full half game, I guess. Yeah. I don't even know why we just don't do 10-minute, just whatever. But anyway, it is what it is. It works because it gets the kids running up and down, but the quality of hoop, man, it's not good. It's not good. My wife just overheard this.
There's two teams. There's two teams. Doom says, if you ask me, you should fire the coaches. You might not be wrong about that. The fact that somebody allowed you to be an assistant coach is crazy to me. But what's funny to me about the whole situation is I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, this is interesting. How children's sports are looked at, but there's 2 teams in our local area, Joppa, Maryland. And so what they did is they split it down the middle. And normally what they would do is they would equal the talent from both teams. But there was 10 kids that had never played before, and the other kids had played before. So they put all the kids that had played before with one team and all the newer kids on our team. And yeah, so that's what's, I get we're not going to win a game probably. I think we're getting better. But I also am like, man, some of these kids, we're playing some of these teams, and I'm like, that kid's good. No, that kid's good.
Well, you can see it right away. Some kids are going to be on the road to playing well, and just being decent players, and then you simply know what kids. And then
aggressiveness. That was the last thing I wanted to say. Aggressiveness, right? I have a son. My son is all the way up to here to me, so he's the tallest kid on the team. There's actually one other kid that's just as tall, 7 and 8 year olds. My son's wearing size 7 shoes already, and is up to my chest in height. And so there's another kid that's just as tall. So my son and this other kid are like 2 of the actually tallest players in the league, but they're not aggressive at all. And so last Tuesday night, we were doing aggressive drills. So we had them you gotta box out. You gotta box out. And so it was the first time they really showed any aggression. So I'm excited to see our game on this Saturday, because I'm like, we got practice tonight. But if we can do a little bit of that tonight, and I think we're going to play a scrimmage tonight against the other team, I'm just hoping that it comes to fruition on Saturday when we play our game. That's what I want. That's what I want. Noob says there's never bad students, only bad teachers. You're not wrong, Noob. You're not wrong. I never said I should be the coach. I was pretty much baited into it.
Same nobody else. I'm the assistant here. So
I'm the assistant. I'm not even the head coach. I'm
the cantankerous assistant coach who likes to yell. I can be very cantankerous on the sidelines, because it's you're just literally trying your best to just tell the kid to not heave it from 3-point land when they shouldn't even be shooting.
Oh my God! I got one kid who thinks he's a sucker. Who thinks he's the God's gift. Love the kid, but man, he will shoot it up from anywhere in the court, and you're like, don't do that.
There's literally, I got one kid who's good. He's good when he dribbles. He shoots from the inside pretty well, and you could tell that he's eventually going to be a good player at 12, 15, whatever. But he's a 7-year-old kid, and I just tell the kid, listen, if it's not there, instead of just chucking it like a hook shot, just pass it to a teammate. And he has not done that. And I just, from then on, when he does it, he looks at me, and I just do this. I just kind of shrug, because I'm tired of saying his name and say, you got to give a pass. So I just kind of shrug. That's my new thing. I'm like, told you, didn't do it. What can you do?
DDG says, I just hopped in and thought you guys were talking about the Heat, but I see I was wrong. No, we're talking about coaching our kids' basketball teams and how crazy that is, man. So football season's over. Are you a binge watcher? Do you watch anything?
If I just finished binge watching Better Call Saul.
Okay, I'm on the last season of Breaking Bad.
Oh, so
good. I know. Good. I got like
my wife wants. She wants me to get into a couple of shows that she's watching. I have like a very odd
Yellowstone. You got to get into Yellowstone. Yellowstone is great. Yellowstone is absolutely amazing. I'm big into like movies and so this time of year, like I've started to put like a watch list together and I'm pretty excited. I'm like, all right, I got some stuff because one of the other things I was talking with Allie about on the phone yesterday is we're like, football season is over. What do we do on Sunday afternoons? Well, Sunday afternoons during football season for 18 weeks, 19 weeks, 20 weeks out of 52 weeks in a year but now for the next 30 weeks, I have no football on Sunday. Do you know how sad that is? I'm sad about that.
I'm sad as well. I mean, for years and years, pretty much ever since, I met my now wife, Sundays were days for football when in season. And as I've always told her,
King's really good, Gabriel. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I've heard that show is pretty good too.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's amazing.
But once football season's over, I tell her, book your Sundays. Book the Sundays, whatever you got. Because I kind of earn my season of football Sundays from what I just never turned down us doing on Sundays outside of the season. You know what I mean? And my wife knows that, and that's the time to really book some fun things to keep us busy, meet some friends that we haven't seen in a while. But, she knows to allow the Sundays, which I'm forever grateful for. She allows me to do a lot of fun things on football Sundays.
By the way, nobody has one official fan of the year yet. I think voting is good till the 8th of February. Yeah, so you can keep voting till the 8th. There's keep no winner. Vote, keep voting for Allie. Go keep voting for Allie.
It's unlimited, so just vote. Keep on voting. Send people. Vote.
Hey, Dolphin fans are good at doing that, man. Speaking of voting and speaking of fans, it is Pro Bowl weekend. There's Pro Bowl stuff tonight live on ESPN. We have 4 people. We got Xavier Howard, Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, Teron Armstead are going to be involved in the games. Tua would have been in it, but he was in concussion protocol. So instead, Tyler Huntley gets the nod, which is crazy. Do you care one iota about the Pro Bowl games? And are you going to watch the Pro Bowl games?
0 and no.
You're not.
Let me amend that.
There's some cool stuff, man.
Like, I will flip and look at it, and I'll tell you where I'll absorb most of the content will be on Twitter in a micro content when somebody throws a really cool throw in the throwing competition, or I'll watch that minute or that 30-second clip. But I'm not going to sit there. Look, I got to be honest with you. 20 years ago, I loved it. The old school Pro Bowl, the quarterback club, even like NBA, NHL, All-Star games, those were awesome, mainly because there was 20 other options on TV with basic cable, and that's it. Now there's 500,000 things to do with your life, how you absorb your content. So things like this, I think it's setting themselves up for just really low ratings, and this thing is probably going to go by the wayside in a couple of years. So Thursday tonight at 7, there's Epic Pro Bowl Dodgeball. I saw that a few years ago. I was kind of into it. I thought it was cool. There's a thing called Lightning Round. New this year, each conference will select 16 players to compete in a 3-part elimination challenge that will leave 1 player left at the end to earn 3 points for his conference. In the first event, Lightning Round Splash Catch, teammates pairings for each conference will toss water balloons back and forth from increasing distance. Each tandem that completes all of their tosses advance to the second phase. In part 2, the Lightning Round. I'm sorry, I thought I heard you say water balloons.
Yes, I did. I said water balloons.
Sorry, Jason. Go on.
That's what I said. Lightning Round, high stakes. Advancing players will attempt to catch punts from a jugs machine to earn a place representing their conference for the final round competition, the Lightning Round Thrill of the Spill. The remaining players from each conference will aim at targets attached to a bucket hanging above the head of an opposing team's conference coach. The first team to dump the bucket on the opposing team coach wins and earns 3 points for his conference.
What is this, Double Dare?
Yo, you brought up Nickelodeon. Yes. Double Dare was great. Don't you dare talk about Double Dare.
Dare was fantastic.
Double Dare was amazing, Jason. Are you kidding me? That was an epic part of my childhood, dude.
Me too, but going like 2-3 years above that, I want it to be on.
We're not done yet tonight,
I want it to be on Guts, Stephen.
We're not done tonight.
Do you remember Guts? Oh, we're going to go back, but we'll talk about Guts. That was a...
Guts is another good one.
I'll tell you what, you know what's a show idea? Guts Senior. I still want my dream.
DDG says NFL does do work with Nickelodeon.
If they bring back a Guts Senior or a Guts father-son.
All right, here we go. Next thing tonight. Longest drive presented by Bud Light. 4 players from each conference will complete in a challenge to drive a golf ball the furthest off a tee. Each player will get 3 swings, and the player that drives the furthest within the boundaries on each side of the fairway will win 3 points for his conference.
You see, now that I'm interested in, because I've always been fascinated with cross-sport content. If anybody wants to Google some old school, really fun situations like that, football players in dunk contests, things like that. There's some great footage from the 90s with like Hall of Famers dunking, but this is now the thing. It's golfers, it's basketball players like Steph Curry, it's football players like Tom Brady, who's definitely going to be doing golf stuff in his retirement, the Mannings. I love this stuff. Josh Allen, golf and football mix. So let's see who's got the best drive. Let's see who.
Exactly.
I like that. I like water balloons. Dodgeball.
That is interesting that they're going to be throwing water balloons at each other, like stuff you would do at a field day at an elementary school.
Oh, I want to know who fills the water balloons. Whose job is it to?
By the way, for tonight's games, there are no fans for tonight's stuff. No fans tonight. God. Okay. No fans. Next thing tonight. This is all tonight. Precision. I can't say the word, Jason. Precision passing presented by EA Sports, Madden NFL 23 Mobile.
That's fine.
Each quarterback, each conference 2 quarterbacks and 1 non-quarterback will battle it out in a 1-minute accuracy competition as they attempt to hit as many targets as possible. New in 2022, the targets are attached to robotic dummies that are in motion across the event. After the buzzer sounds, the quarterbacks will get 1 long-distance throw to earn bonus points.
Do we know who the non-quarterback throwers are?
Not at the moment.
That's intriguing.
I'd love to see Teron Armstead.
I'll tell you, you don't want to be the quarterback who falls behind in those standings to a non-quarterback throwing participant. That's just setting yourself up for embarrassment. So Snoop Hundley, I'm talking to you, buddy. Snoop's on call.
All right, best catch is the next one tonight. 2 players from each conference will compete in a best catch competition, showing off their creativity, inventiveness, and talent. I have a feeling Tyreek's going to be a part of this. In the first round on Thursday, the players will showcase their best receptions and highlight reel shots at iconic venues around Las Vegas. Fans will vote online to determine their favorite catch by a player in each conference, and the players with the highest votes will compete in the finals on Sunday. So Dolphin fans, you need to vote tonight for Allie and for Tyreek, because I'm sure Tyreek will be in this, and we want Tyreek to compete on Sunday. But that's all tonight. You don't seem excited, Jason.
No,
Jason, where's your enthusiasm for tonight?
I worry about tonight overall, yay. But for the trick catch, I don't know. It's like, that could set up for some disaster.
All right, you ready for Sunday's games?
Yes, Sunday's games. Let's hear it.
Sunday's games.
Oh my God, I thought it ended there.
Best catch. On Sunday, the top vote getters from each conference from the Thursday night will compete in a head-to-head as they perform in front of a panel of celebrity judges. The pass catcher who accumulates the highest score from the judges will be determined the winner. Is this their version of the dunk competition?
I'm saying it's like when
That's what this sounds like. That this is their version of the dunk contest.
So south.
Which, by the way, has just been atrocious for ever since Dwight Howard and his Superman and Nate Robinson had some.
I'll tell you what killed it. It was the Birdman who killed it too.
Well, yeah,
Chris.
Hey, he did good, but still, I mean, this is like, come on.
No,
the dunk contest has problems of its own. We're copying the dunk contest, NFL. Come on now, let's do better. Do better.
I mean, the only thing that I'll give the NFL in differentiation to the dunk contest is that the premier talent doesn't do the dunk contest in the NFL. I'm sorry, in the NBA. You know, so at least their Pro Bowlers will be doing these fun competitions. You know, it's not like you're seeing LeBron at a dunk contest.
Hey, man. All right, next one, the Gridiron Gauntlet. A side-by-side relay race showcasing strength, speed, and agility.
Right.
Six players from each conference will compete to see who finishes first and wins 3 points for his team. The 4-part gauntlet, each segment 40 yards in length, includes a series of breakaway walls, a section of climbing over walls, an under tables, a tire run, and a blocking sled carrying a legend coach across the finish line.
That's got to be Ditka.
Well, Teron Armstead, I feel like might be a part of that one.
I want the funniest mic'd up coach on that sled, which would be phenomenal. But that's appealing. I'd watch that.
Next one, move the chains. 4 teams, 2 teams from each conference, will compete side by side in a weighted wall pool that will showcase their strength, speed, and ingenuity. Thank you. Because math is hard, and so is speaking, and so are words. Anyways, each team, I just like showcase that I can't read for nothing right now. I swear I'm a very good reader. I promise. Ingenuity.
The season's over.
Don't judge me.
February 2nd.
Do not judge me at all. Okay. Each team of 5 players is responsible for pulling a wall loaded up with heavy weights 10 yards as quickly as possible using first down chains. The winner of the best of 3 playoffs will earn 3 points for their conference.
I don't like that.
I don't understand that one, nor do I like it.
Sounds like a mess and some medieval trickery. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't like that one. I feel like this thing could have been condensed into a 1 hour.
Ingenuity. Ingenuity.
Strategery. But anyway, I don't know, man. I don't like that.
And the very last one on Sunday, kick-tack-toe.
Kicker tic-tac-toe?
Each team's kicker, punter, and long snapper will compete in a giant tic-tac-toe competition to showcase their respective skills. The first team to complete a connecting line of 3 squares or hit 5 squares total will be declared the winner and earn 3 points for his conference.
Not only do I love that, here's my letter to the NFL, my verbal letter to the NFL. Include long snapper competitions, include punter competitions. You know why? Because they're of the utmost skill, and here's what you do. You set up 3 garbage cans.
Yep.
Trash cans full of water. One in the coffin corner, one on the literal pylon for the punters. See who lands it into the trash can. See who punts it from the 40, the 50, and so on. Long snappers. You know how fast they could snap that ball? I want to know speed. I want to know accuracy of the best long snappers. Set up a couple of cans, set up a couple of targets, 5, 10, 15 yards out, and see if these long snappers could hit the target, and I want the speed of it. Add some special teams components to it, but I like this kicking where it's going.
So, by the way, on Sunday, there will also be a flag football game.
That's fine. That's fine because it's supposed to be fun and stupid.
Yes. So there will be. Okay. the Pro Bowl game skills competitions will have cumulative scoring leading up to the flag football games on Sunday. Scoring for the Pro Bowl games works the following way. The winning conference of each skill competition earns 3 points toward their team's overall score with 24 total points across the 8 skills events. The winning conference from each of the first 2 flag football games on Sunday will earn 6 points for their team for a total of 12 available points. Points from the skills competition and the first 2 flag football games will be added together and will be the score at the beginning of the 3rd and final flag game, which will determine the winning conference of the Pro Bowl games. So there'll be 3 flag football games. That's interesting.
It's ambitious. This is an ambitious plan here.
Look, I get what they're trying to do. I think there's some things that are the ingenuity of it is very. You see what I did there? You see how I used the word?
Yeah, you did. Nice job getting back on. Nice job getting back on track.
I want to show y'all how smart I really am.
Nicely done.
I think that they're trying to be creative. We all know that but do we get what the Pro Bowl is? Like, were we okay with what they were showcasing for the last 10 years?
No.
Is this necessary? Are you okay with this?
Am I okay with it? What I'm not okay with is lack of recognition for people who deserve it. A Christian Wilkins.
Hundley should no way, shape, or form sniff the
and that seeing that, it tells me a lot of other things. How far down the list was Hundley? Because how many people are going to accept it?
Tua was the first. So rumor has it Tua was the first alternative. He was the number 1 alternative.
Which is great and would have made it okay if Tua wanted to, be in the accuracy competition. If he was all right and allowed to do that, that would have been really pretty cool to watch. Because you know what? Ultimately, does he deserve to be there? Oh, absolutely, with what he did this season. But now you look at Huntley, and it's like, all right.
A backup quarterback who got to play because Lamar was didn't want to play or was hurt, whatever way you want to go about it.
It's discredited what it means to earn that spot. So, we could debate, we could have fun little hypotheticals of what the NFL should do, but I do think that there will be players either watching this or seeing some of this footage and news being like, this guy's there. I'm not named a Pro Bowler because there's monetary situations.
There's monetary stuff that the players get. Yes,
exactly.
That's true. I think what's interesting, or I don't know if there is a good way. Like I look at All-Star games. Like I know baseball, tried to have that the winner of the All-Star game would have home field advantage in the World Series. They did that for 13 years, and then they got rid of that because they just realized, well, that's stupid because this is an All-Star game.
Right.
It should have no weight or bearing on who gets home field advantage for the World Series. But
correct.
I feel like the best people to do it, and some people will disagree, is NBA. I feel like NBA gets their I want to say their All-Star game is next weekend, right? Or the weekend.
It's usually Valentine's Day weekend. I will say,
So is their All-Star game this weekend too?
It's got to be next. Or
next weekend? Is it next weekend during the Super Bowl?
No, it wouldn't be during the Super Bowl. Hold on. It's the 19th. It's the weekend. It's in a couple of weekends. It usually does.
So we get the Pro Bowl this week and the Super Bowl next week and the NBA All-Star game the following weekend.
With the NFL moving to the game structure, and the Super Bowl's gotten kind of progressively later. So, yeah, the NBA is not going to go up against.
I don't know if there's a All-Star game in any of the 4 major sports that gets it 100% right. I think the 2 best to do it are probably NBA. I like this year what they're doing in the NBA, which is really cool. In the past, they've picked the teams live the week before, whoever the team captains are. I like that. This year, they're doing it Sandlot style, that they are going to pick the teams literally on the court before the game. They are going to get in the center of the court. The team captains are going to pick just like the old Sandlot. And you're going to be on my, I think that's cool. I like the NHL, we're Miami sports music. The NHL All-Star Game's in Sunrise this weekend. It's in Florida. So
I used to like those competitions. I mean, again, I'm going back to like early in the mid
I just
'90s.
realized football, basketball, and hockey all have their all-star games within like a 2-week window of each other. It's very interesting. I don't think I ever put 2 and 2 together for that.
I mean, going back to like growing up, like those were extremely enjoyable because there was not so many other things to kind of enjoy and absorb from a sports content standpoint, 92, 93, 94, these all-star skill competitions, that was it. You're seeing things and you're getting content that, you weren't able to get online at that time. So I used to love the NBA, all the skills competitions, the 3-point shootout, the dunk contest, even the rookie games. See, that was and always will be for the NBA, that's Super Bowl weekend. It's like their all-star weekend is like the NFL Super Bowl weekend. It's like the Daytona 500. They put maximum effort into that all-star weekend.
I'm making a poll. I'm interested to know out of the 4 major sports, NFL, which
Anthony's got. I'll throw up a question for Anthony.
All-star game do you like the most?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's to be taken seriously.
I put a thing in the chat. Which all-star game do you like the most? The NHL all-star game, the NBA all-star game, the MLB all-star game, or the NFL Pro Bowl? I'm interested to know what people are thinking. Vote right now. Put it in. It's in the chat for
it's an
YouTube.
Interesting poll.
It is an interesting poll. I'm interested to know what people think. I don't think NFL has it right. I don't know what having it right looks like. There's some people think the Pro Bowl should be before the year, but I don't like that either.
Nah. I mean, look, I don't think it's to be taken seriously. This is, how can you when you're talking about water balloons? But it's sports.
They have a water balloon toss.
It's sports and entertainment kind of mixing. I mean, look, if you really want to, in my perfect world,
I want to know how that was brought up at the table. All right, what should we do, guys? Let's have these millionaire professional athletes throw water balloons. Sounds like a good idea. People will watch that. That sounds like an awesome alternative to watching 2 players barely hit each other at a Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
I think it should be a flag football game. Just do straight flag football.
The 2 days of it irks me a little bit. I don't
like that there's games tonight and that there's games on Saturday or on Sunday.
And they're also setting themselves up for some pretty rough data, meaning that, like, let's say 1 million people tune in Thursday. What if 200,000 tune in on Sunday? That means that that's a huge drop off. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you're setting yourself up for like a big decline when you're talking about retention from a Thursday to a Sunday all-star competition when you're not really focusing on.
Well, so here's the other thing. So the Pro Bowl starts at 3. The Pro Bowl starts at 3 on Sunday. The Pro Bowl games start at 3. But the NASCAR has their exhibition at the LA Coliseum, the shootout, the dash, whatever they call it. And that's starting to get a lot of traction because it's literally like that old school Friday night dirt racing with NASCAR. There's no pit stops or anything. The Clash, I think, is what they call it. It's pretty cool. If I don't care if you don't like NASCAR, you should watch that race on Sunday because it's literally just them beating each other up, going in a very small circle.
That could be entertaining. I could see that. I can see that.
But it is interesting to kind of see how the All-Star games kind of like taking a lead, a thing of their own, and NFL trying to change it. Right now, 26 votes in, NFL Pro Bowl's in last place, and NHL All-Star games, in first, NBA, and then Major League Baseball, then NFL. That's interesting. I didn't think that it would be. I feel like NBA would have been first. I'm surprised that NHL's in first so far. I'm going to leave that poll up for a little bit.
Yeah.
Jose Valdez says, I like the MLB All-Star game because the winner gets home field. No, that's not anymore. They don't do that anymore. But it's funny because I think Anthony said he likes that. He said, I just agree with you in terms of the MLB All-Star game. I kind of liked it when they used to have strings for whatever won that game got home field advantage for the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, other than monetary compensation to the winning players, there's really not much I can see.
Do you think All-Star games should have some sort of value?
No, because it's a standalone event. I mean, look, what are you going to offer an AFC or an NFC conference or a team within that conference? I mean, there's a neutral site for the Super Bowl. Records are determining factors other than crazy scenarios like we saw this year potentially on where conference championship games are. I mean, what can you do? There's nothing fair that 16 teams could benefit on if their conference wins a ridiculous all-star competition when we're talking about water balloons and non-quarterbacks throwing accuracy competitions.
I don't know. I will say this.
Sports entertainment. This is entertainment. Should not count towards 17 plus.
James 1989 says, Steven, I think college football should bring back the college football all-star game. You kind of get that in the Reese's Senior Bowl. And it's tough to do that because players want to showcase their skills. I think the Reese's Senior Bowl and Alabama is good enough, like, for college football. Personally, that's just my opinion.
I agree there. I think it's great. I mean, they do that very, very well. That's like a Super Bowl media week in and of itself, and Nagy does a great job with that.
All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. I got myself, Stephen D, along with Jason Sarney. We are here. And it's a slow news day, which is fine. I just want to get your thoughts on some stuff that has transpired over the last week before we get into more Dolphins talk. What are your thoughts, Jason, because we haven't heard from you, about Mr. Tom Brady retiring from the NFL?
Look, it's a legend. It's the best to ever do it, arguably. And
somebody's there. Package is there.
It's all good. Someone's taking care of that. Sorry. But Brady is basically, it's like when you find out a guy like a Michael Jordan retired, it's like he's tormented Eastern Conference teams. When he retired, Jordan, I know, being a New Yorker, Knicks fans celebrated. Cleveland fans celebrated. Miami fans celebrated. You know what I mean? This is a situation where you have to celebrate Tom Brady for his greatness, even if you don't like him. But I'm thrilled. I'm happy that there's a new era in quarterbacks now. I mean, the generation of your Brady, your Breeze, your Manning, your Roethlisberger, your other Manning, that it's now the new era. And once Rodgers retires, then it's really out with the old school. But Brady, yeah, wish him well. He already signed a contract that's going to make him more money. And now going on to.
Did you see that Fox had? I didn't say this week. Did you see that Fox had to announce publicly that what's his face, Greg Olsen, was going to be the color man for the Super Bowl and not Tom Brady, even though Tom Brady announced his retirement? I would feel so disrespected if I was Greg Olsen that they had to go out of their way to make an announcement for that.
Well, I mean, you could look at it that way, but yeah, tell you the truth, I don't understand. But
look, I'm not a big fan of the Fox crew. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but I miss Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on Fox. I do not like them on ESPN on Monday Night Football. And the fact that Kevin Burkhardt, and no offense to Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen are going to be doing the Super Bowl like that. I do not look forward to hearing them. I don't like them.
Burkhardt, I'll say Burkhardt has definitely earned his spot.
But he's not. You can earn your spot, and that's all well and good. But there's a reason that the Manning podcast and Amazon's, got the thing with LeBron now, and ESPN has the Pat McAfee. You saw what they did with the championship games and the bowl games. Mm-hmm. I was more interested in hearing them than whatever. Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen. No offense to Greg Olsen, but they're boring. Like, they're not fun to listen to.
I mean, I like Olsen. I think he does a great job. He'll be picked up somewhere else, or he'll move to another team. His broadcasting.
I think traditional broadcasting is gone. in the next 5 years.
Really? Oh, funny story. Going to my 7-year-old, and like I said, we've discussed if our kids watch games with us. So we're watching the end of one of the playoff games, and my 7-year-old all of a sudden just says, "These guys never shut up."
Talk about Tony Romo. Tell me it was Tony Romo.
I don't know if it was a Romo. It was one of the.
What game were you watching? Do you remember?
It might have been the Philly. It had to have been the Philly game.
So the Philly game was Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen, who were atrocious.
There it is.
They were horrible, bro. They were horrible, man.
He makes no comment.
I was like, I get to listen to this for the Super Bowl. This sucks.
But I had to explain to my son. It's like, no, this is what it is. I mean, you're always going to hear these people. You're always going to hear.
I disagree, man. And YouTube's going to change all that with the new.
Maybe.
See, some people are saying, Romo, I'm hitting the mute button. Here's the effed up part about Romo. I enjoy Romo, except there are certain cases, like he has a love fest with Josh Allen. He has a love fest with Patty Mahomes. There are certain people that he has just straight love fest for. And when those games are on, he is very biased. Like he does not, but he's smart.
Well, right.
He's so freaking smart. Like he will call a play before that play happens. And you're like, why are you not a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator?
That was his first year or two. I mean, he does that now still, right? But I feel like he's got a little fancy, meaning like, if he picks the guy that he thinks is the better player, like a Josh Allen versus, the Dolphins in this case, he was very, very, very all on board with Josh Allen and the Bills, it seemed. And then it just seemed that when I was watching that into the Kansas City game, he was watching almost like as like a fan that had something not on it, but just, wanted his way to go a proper way. There was not a lot of objectivity there. He was like almost like enjoying himself too much. I don't know. He got away from that old school.
When the Dolphins played the Bills and Romo and Nance got the call for that game, I was super excited about it. Too. And then to hear the whole game, him talk about, like, he was just so biased towards Buffalo and Allen. I was like, Romo, I was so excited for you calling the game, and now I dread you calling the games that Buffalo's in because you just openly heard it. And again, I go back to the NFL will be very interesting next year with YouTube being the home of NFL Sunday Ticket, because I gotta think things like the Pat McAfee show, like the podcast, getting the you're able to watch that alternative. That's where I think people are headed to. I think that's where people
make a fun.
Would you rather? I guess here's. Would you rather hear a traditional broadcast, or would you rather hear your favorite podcasters watching the game?
I mean, look, it's a very, very interesting concept, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong. So, for example, if I'm watching a game eventually on YouTube, I'm watching Dolphins Jets, right? And I have the option right away of saying, you know what, Miami broadcast, nah. Jet broadcast, nah. You know what, Stephen D's doing a live with guest color man.
Hey, look,
flip to him.
Yep.
You know what, Snoop Dogg's talking with Pat McAfee. They're doing a color and a broadcast. Let's switch them. Are you saying like I could switch the voice on my navigation?
I think 100% that's where we're I think if YouTube was smart, they would have, this is how I would do it if I was them, okay? If I was in charge of the Sunday Ticket next year, I would have a YouTube channel, or like the YouTubers channel, where you could listen to me, TD, Dudley Do-Wrong, K-Flex and Reason, whoever, right? You listen to any one of us. And personally, I would put, YouTube, like rotate the YouTubers out every week or whatever. And then the other option would be traditional play-by-play that you get, CBS, Fox. The other one would be you would have a big time podcast that needs to be like a top 100 podcast in there that are fans of the team, and or a celebrity. So like Darius Rucker one week is doing the Dolphins game. And I would want to hear Darius Rucker watch a game and maybe his buddies, and they talk about the game, right? So that's what I think I would like to see, is that I have 4 or 5 different options for all games, all 15, 16 games every weekend. And I think that You could have 4 or 5 different options for that. And why not? YouTube's there already. Like, you could have that easily.
I like the concept. I just don't know how it would work out legally with all the other. I mean, look,
Fox and CBS have to get with the times. If Fox was smart, and they're not, but if they were smart, they would ask if they could have an alternative broadcast on FS1 with like a podcast, so that you have the way ESPN has their ridiculous coverage where there's the college football championship is on all of every ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN Classic, ESPN, Trace, all of them, right? Like, you should have the same thing. Like, Fox should be doing that for the Super Bowl this year.
I mean, look, it's a great concept. I love that option. I would love to listen to
Manning. The Manning brothers are better to listen to on Monday night than Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Are they not?
1,000% agree. 1,000% agree.
That's how they should do it. 100%. Get the YouTubers involved in it. Get podcasters involved in it. Get celebrities involved in it. And I'm telling you, and who, like, YouTube could pay, say, okay, you got to pay $5 each game for an all access package. You pay $299 for the year. But if you want to listen to like the alternative package, like the alternative voices, you pay an extra $5 each week. Who wouldn't do that? Like, they would make money hand over foot. CBS and Fox would get a cut of the deal. They would make money. You could still have your traditional announcers. Who wouldn't do that? Everybody would be on board. Everybody would make money. Everybody would be on board.
I think that could be a fine option. I think it'd be fun. I would tune in.
And I'm telling you, that's where I think YouTube is headed eventually in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, their contract, YouTube, if I'm correct, is a 10-year contract, right, for Sunday Ticket?
That I don't know. I don't know for sure.
I'm pretty sure it's a 10-year contract. Here's what I'm thinking is going to happen. The NFL has an app called NFL Plus, right? Which we're all familiar with. You can get the Catch 22 or whatever it is. You can get all the NFL preseason games. If you're overseas, I think you can watch regular season games on NFL Plus, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure how that's going to work actually this year with YouTube getting the everything. But what I'm thinking is that 10 years from now, when the YouTube's contract is up, NFL is going to see how they've run it on streaming, and NFL Plus will no longer, like, NFL is not going to have to go to. They're not going. So what happens is YouTube paid what, $2.5 billion for the next 10 years to broadcast the games.
Makes sense.
But then it's on YouTube to pay to get people to buy marketing, so they can make $8 billion on the $2.5 that they had to.
Exactly.
Why would the NFL do that when they can, on their own merit, then do that on their own? I think NFL Plus is going to eventually be the home. They're not going to package it out. They're going to be their own thing. I think that would make the most sense for them.
I just hope it's very easy for people regionally,
because then they can make $8 to $10 billion instead of the 2.5 only.
Whether they do
they're doing 2.5 right now because they don't have the capability to do it.
Right. I want the ability to watch any game that I want, whether it's $5 a game. I obviously know that it's going to be a cost structure to it if they do it like a la carte. And an out of towner like yourself and myself, not living in the Miami market, it's really annoying to not get a game in the comfort of your own home, and that's
YouTube TV. I'm hopeful they make a la carte, and we only have to buy the Dolphins games. I don't need every game.
Exactly
every
right.
Week, and make it weekly so you don't get burned on the national coverage.
What they should do if you're like a rabid NFL.
How much would you pay a week? How much would you pay a week to see a Dolphins game?
Funny thing is, I mean, look, tell you the truth, mathematically, I'm an interesting story because I love to go down to as many games as I can. So I'm going to a couple of home games. Let's call it 4. So let's call 5 or 6 more games at best I'll be able to watch from home. So we're talking about maybe half the season or a little less than half the season I look to pay for. Now, if I'm going to a bar or a restaurant to watch that game, I'm spending $25 to $35 for the ability to do that and not get kicked out by ordering a meal.
You're spending more than that. An average bar ticket at like Buffalo Wild Wings, you're spending 40 or 50
getting
bucks.
6 wings and a drink. You know what I mean? Fine. So 35, 40 bucks, you know? So if I'm spending anything south of, let's slice that in half. So if I would do anything from $10 to $15 per week at maximum to get my Dolphins, that when I can't see it live or in my home, to get that ability. Now, if that's a la carte, so if I only have to do 2 or 3 times, 5 times that I'm paying $15, that's a great deal for me. If I have to spend the season at what, $150 because you have to take a little off if you're going to do the whole thing, I would probably do that too.
So $299 is NFL Sunday ticket package with DirecTV. And I think if you want the Red Zone channel and the other channel, I think it's $399 if I'm correct, right? So $399
I don't need that.
Divided by 17 is $23 a week. Okay. So $23. Actually, I did 17 is 18 weeks, right? So $399 divided by 18 is $22 a week. So $22 a week. I get every NFL I get every NFL game. I get all the extra benefits that come from it. If I'm the average NFL ticket, I think is what, $99 now, $89, something like that.
Crazy.
Okay. So the average NFL ticket's $100. All right. And most people are spending or they're going to, a season ticket is 8 games, 9 games, right? So you're spending over $1,000 a year to physically go to the games. And that's just tickets. That's not parking. That's not the food that's in it or anything like that. So I've started to think, how much is YouTube going to charge? And the a la carte thing, right? I think the a la carte thing is very interesting because if I'm correct, with NBA, you can just buy your team an NBA package, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about that. It's NBA or NHL or MLB. One of them, you can just buy your team. Anyways, if you're out of market, I'm like sitting here trying to do the math on what is YouTube going to charge people for this, and what is an acceptable price, right? What is an acceptable price? And I think for me, just looking around, and by the way, I say the average price is $99. It's probably more like $150 or $160 per ticket, if I'm honest with myself. So with that being said, I feel like YouTube could charge $40 a week
for one game. I wouldn't pay.
If you are out of town, you wanted to see your Dolphins play, what is the most amount you would pay to watch them
at home?
At the comfort of your own home.
Like I said before, probably $20 to get that game access without having to drive somewhere. But if I'm spending more than that, might as well have a meal with that too and get out of the house if that's the case.
Okay, so $20.
Yeah.
So we say $20 a week, right? But $20 a week at the a la carte, I'm just getting the Dolphins. When in the past, $22 or $23 a week got me every NFL game. So you think that I think this is a fair conversation. We turn around and we say, all right, it's $20 a week. You get your one game. You get your team for every week during the year. Okay. $20 a week. You're not going to be able to pay weekly. You'd have to pay for the season pass, whatever. But for an extra $6 a week, we'll give you every NFL game plus the added package. Most people are going to take that extra $6 and spend it per week. Right? So I could see a world where 26 times 18, $468 for a whole season. And I get the a la carte, and that means, or I get every game and everything, or I'm just then going 18 times 20 is 360. So for an extra $100 more, I can get every NFL game.
I wouldn't click the box personally for every NFL game because I don't necessarily need that. Like I need the ability to watch in real time my out of market team, So, and again, for people who like to go to a couple of games, travel, whatever, what have you, if you don't need every single game and you do it week to week, a la carte, I'm not going to get this week's 6th game. I might as well spend whatever it is. I would love it to be $9.99 So if I have to watch the game or pay for it 5 to 9 times, it's a very tolerable price point. But I don't think I would.
Joe says to make it simple and affordable, $10 for one team, $25 a week for everything. DDG says, Google has the money to make these packages extremely cheap at first. YouTube charges $10 for premium. That should be included in the package. They're going to up their prices.
I mean, it's also a thing where they know that they can charge pretty much whatever they really want. Because
right now, the announced plans don't even include the a la carte option for this. Have they already announced it? I didn't think they had announced prices yet. Level 2 move, they did. I want a link because I don't think they've announced prices yet.
It will be interesting.
I checked to see if I can see playoff games on NFL Plus. I just checked. I can see playoff games on NFL Plus. Is YouTube going to stream playoffs and Super Bowl? No, not this year. Next year. I'm just – and by the way, the reason I bring this up as a topic of conversation is because of the way that we gather in content and we take in content as fans and the future of where we're at. And I just, I go back to my original statement that I don't think that the traditional style of NFL games that we're used to seeing are going to be prevalent in the next 5 to 10 years. Why would you? I would rather hear Pat McAfee and his boys listen to a game over Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt. I'm sorry. I would.
The only thing I say there is it becomes just a very slippery slope with just a saturation of that kind of content. That's
what YouTube is, Jason.
You're right.
What do you think I do? I'm in an oversaturated market, quote unquote, right?
No, well, the Dolphins socially.
Think about there's 30 different YouTube channels dedicated to the Dolphins. I'm one of 30. People can choose to listen to me, and people don't listen to me, and that's fine. That's all well and good. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm in a quote unquote oversaturated market because there's 30 people talking about the same thing. And that's what bothers me about, the off season. I'm like, what the hell am I going to talk about for 30 weeks? I want to do Miami sports. I want to talk hockey and football and baseball and basketball and NASCAR. But 95% of my audience come here every morning to listen to the Dolphins. How often can we sit here and talk about Vic Fangio and what's going on? That conversation gets old, and that's going to get resolved sooner rather than later, right? How often are we going to have the conversation about Tua? Every day. It seems like on the channel, the conversation always comes back to that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where they go. Noob says they haven't officially announced anything yet. The expected announcements are going to be 2 options: a monthly YouTube TV subscription plus the cost of NFL, or a monthly standalone according to leaks. It'll be interesting. Sure, don't come here for NASCAR. Sparta says. Let's go, Bubba.
I gotta tell you, football has structured itself from a league and an entertainment source extremely well for not necessarily 12 months out of the year coverage, but limited gaps of time in between significant news periods. Meaning, right now we're gonna spend a week and a half or a week and a couple of days until the Super Bowl. And then after the Super Bowl, there's going to be everything wrapped up with coaching and all this fun stuff. So we're going to get to March and we're going to have a lull, right? And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, we get to April. And what's April, Steven? It's draft time.
The Masters.
Oh, the Masters. Exactly right. And you got the Masters and you got draft preparation and then all the free agency stuff. So all of a sudden, you're heading on into the summer, building your team and talking about all that fun stuff. And then before you know it, you're talking about pre-training camp schedules. And before you know it, you're talking about OTAs and everything. So I agree with you. It's tough to gather content, but at least in football, the NFL has made it really easy for us to say, hey, in a week, there's this deadline. In a week, there's this thing. In 2 weeks, there's this event, So
Steven, I also believe Amazon Prime is in the process of getting NHL Center Ice, NBA Center Court, and MLB Extra Innings from DirecTV. I told you all 2 years ago on this channel, the moment DirecTV loses NFL Sunday Ticket, they are going to disband within the next 18 to 24 months.
DirecTV?
Oh, yes. I don't believe that they're going to survive this in the next 18 to 24 months once they officially lose it. Huh?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
they never, like, they have streamed DirecTV now, but I'd rather pay YouTube the money than DirecTV. I get, I'm on YouTube more anyway. And they're better streaming quality service than DirecTV ever was. DirecTV, to me, in my opinion, is the equivalent of Blockbuster. They never decided to change. DirecTV could have done so much, and they never moved. And one day we're going to say DirecTV one day, and people are going to be like, our kids or grandkids, what's DirecTV?
What? Exactly.
What is that? What is cable?
Finn's in the house. I think it's April or May that the schedule comes out. But no, I agree. DirecTV was synonymous with Sunday Ticket, and that was their flagship. And with all the other competition out there and lack of actual traditional TV watching, without Sunday Ticket, DirecTV is as good as Circuit City or an 8-track tape, or like you said, Blockbuster.
DirecTV and Dish Network never evolved. Kaslan said DirecTV is owned by AT&T, not going anywhere. DirecTV will no longer. It's going to be. I'm telling you, the name DirecTV, like, that's going to go. It's going to go. I wish you gambled. I would bet that on DirecTV, that would be like the worst thing in the world. Okay, they never evolved. They never evolved.
Just sidebar. I used to decide where I lived based on the ability to put a dish on my roof. Obviously, it's different times now, but true story. Whether it was college or whether I just got married, I literally needed to know what I was doing on a home or an apartment complex if I had the ability to get a dish.
All right, so true story. Grew up in I'm a military brat. So my parents lived it wasn't military housing, but all of the military people lived in this little area, right? And it was in North Carolina, right below the border of Virginia. And I was probably, this is 1993, 1994. So I'm 5, 6, 7 years old. There was a big ice storm across the East Coast in the early 90s or mid 90s. Do you remember that? It was a huge ice storm that affected everybody up and down the East Coast. And it was like 1993 or when did Mortal Kombat come out? Was that 1998 actually? When did Mortal Kombat the movie come out?
97, 96.
Mortal Kombat.
Just taking a stab at that?
Yeah, Kombat the movie. I'm trying to figure it out. 1995. That movie came out in 1995. Okay. So I remember my parents getting one of the very first DirecTVs. The box number on the box was like 0023. We literally had one of the first 25 boxes of DirecTV ever. Okay. And it was so interesting because I remember being stuck in this ice storm. And we get it, and I'm able to look at movies to order, and I got Mortal Kombat. I remember that. It was 1995. I'm 7 years old, I guess I'm 7 years old at the time, and I remember being stuck in the house because of this ice storm and ordering Mortal Kombat. My dad being at the ship because he had to be on duty, and man, I remember that. That's wild. I don't know why you just triggered that memory, but it was like, that's how, like, my parents were literally one of the first members of DirecTV.
No, I remember here's a fun story. We're talking about Throwback Thursday. Here's a quick little DirecTV story related to the Dolphins and Ricky Williams. I was up in Buffalo in college. It was my junior year. So it was 2001. Mm-hmm. 2001. And it was around this time. And then it was the rumor of the Dolphins were going to either trade for Ricky Williams or I believe it was Edger and James. And I had a buddy who was a Dolphin fan who lived in the Buffalo area, which was great, So he was like my guy that we would celebrate, watch games with, whatever. So lived in a house with about 7 or 8 of my friends in the fraternity in Buffalo, whatever. I was in charge of the cable bill. One person in charge of the phone, one person in charge of the electricity, blah, 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 utilities. I was in charge of cable. So once we got Ricky Williams, me and my buddy went out to celebrate, to talk about the potential. And then I said to my buddies, all right, next season, I'm going to leave Adelphia cable and I'm going to get a dish. And that's what's going to be our thing. And everyone's like, no, we don't want a dish. We don't want to switch. Blah, blah. And they were giving me a hard time about it. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm moving out. And I basically moved to an apartment with a friend, which was, a better situation just turned out to be. But I was able to get my dish and ended up having Sundays was basically 15, 20 people in my apartment would have the Dolphins on the main TV, Giants, Jets for some of the other New Yorker friends that I had. But yeah, like I said, DirecTV and the Dolphins and where I could watch has determined where I live.
Chris Wilson said Ice Storm 93 lived in Watertown, New York.
Oh,
it
boy,
was 2 ice storms within a span of like 2 or 3 years. They were huge. I remember it. And that was one of them.
I remember it too, because I would always drive down with my family to Florida from Long Island for like the end of the year to celebrate the holidays with, my grandparents, what have you. And we would always go right in winter, obviously December. And we ended up in a massive ice storm. I was like 12 years old. Yes, that's 93. And we pulled off the side of the road because it takes about a day and a half to get there. We would always stay in around the North Carolina, like Rocky Mount area.
Yep.
That? And so we pulled off the highway of I-95. And this is something I remember, Stephen. And I'm 12 years old and I learned what the term no vacancy means. It means there's no rooms available, and people were going off the highway, not only trying to get into a hotel, but there were no rooms. People were sleeping in like the lounge areas of hotels to get off the road until the storm settled. So I think that, I think that was 1993. I was like 12 years old heading down to Florida, probably right in that border area. So yeah.
Wow. Manalo says, always had reception problems with DirecTV, cloud farts and lose reception. I remember that.
I never had a problem.
Yeah, I had to go outside with a broom to brush the snow off the dish when I had the package. BitBop66 says, triggering memories is what it's all about, Stephen. Helps us make sense of this crazy world. We did set up a dish at the tailgate. I remember that. I, for some reason, remember people having the dish at tailgates and putting them on top of their trucks.
I've seen that. I've seen that in baseball
back in the day.
Believe it or not.
Finn's in the house. Shout out Rocky Mount, my hometown, he said.
Get out of here. Really? Yeah, no. Yeah. For years and years, that would be like our point to, all right, get out and get to a hotel and wake up and finish the drive the next day. So yeah, Rocky Mount. Shout out to Finn's in the house.
All right, Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. It is 11:03 a.m. Where are your children at? Are they in bed? Are they in? They shouldn't be in bed at 11:03. They better be in school. I remember that back in the day. It's 10 p.m. Where are your kids at? Actually, I don't remember that. I just know that because my parents would always say that. Want to remind you guys, hey, if you haven't done so already, get your Super Bowl boxes. $25 per box, okay? Do it now. Big Dougie B and William Perry, if you're watching, I need box numbers from you here, cuz. Okay? I need box numbers from you here. I need one box number from Big Dougie B, and I need one box number from William Perry because you guys did when it was $50. So I want to make sure you guys get your second one. Making sure you got it. So $25 per box. You see the winnings on the top left there, what you would win at the end of each quarter, halftime game. And a portion of the proceeds will get donated to the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. So make sure.
Speaking of the DCC, I am going down for the first time to.
Are you?
Yeah, I just booked the flight. I will be doing the 5K walk. I can't get on a cycle. That would literally cripple my back. I can't do that, but I will walk, and I'm going to do the 5K. I'm really excited.
Breaking news. Breaking news here on Miami Sports Music. Adam Schefter tweeting 2 minutes ago. After speaking with multiple teams about their defensive coordinator position, Vic Fangio has decided to join the Dolphins as their defensive coordinator and will officially accept the position on the Miami staff after the Super Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, Vic Fangio's coming to Miami. Let's go.
There you go.
I'm excited, baby.
Beautiful.
I'm excited. Love it. Love it.
It's deja vu. And again, on Groundhog's Day, it's almost like history is repeating itself. Didn't we experience this? Did we get him already? We got him. Terrific.
Got him.
Let's move on.
Hey, Caslin, with this $5 donation, I just don't want you to forget. Say we missed it here. MLS and Apple TV are doing the same thing as the NFL. If you're an Apple TV subscriber, it's $79.99. If you want if you just want the MLS, it's $99 for the year, so $20 more. Interesting. Okay, well, hey, interesting. Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Now again.
We get all the breaking news right here on Clock Blockers. Yes, we do, Rick.
So, yeah, I mean, it's confirmation of what we already basically assumed, which is great and fantastic. Let's get him in. Let's get him, press conference. I guess that's going to happen after the Super Bowl. But this is just reconfirmation of what we already heard until the contract is signed and we see him in front of the camera. But
yeah, look, I mean, everything I read or was getting is that this was a done deal, and I'm good with it, right? So, look, here's what I think, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree. He's a very good possibility that next year the Miami Dolphins have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense in the NFL. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying there's a very good chance that those two things can happen. So if you are not excited for next year, get excited. We just got top 3 defensive coordinator in all of football, let alone the NFL. In all of football, Fangio's defensive mind is impeccable. It's amazing. And we haven't seen what type of coaching staff he's going to put together. Let him bring Sean Desai here to be under him with tutelage. Oh, my God. In my opinion, Vic Fangio coming to Miami says so much about where the Dolphins are headed as a franchise. And I'm excited. I'm stoked. And I know that there are some fans that are like, oh, the quarterback situation. I understand we live in a quarterback progressive world. I get that. I understand it. But this team seems to think, this franchise seems to think, for whatever reason, that Tua is a guy that can get us to the next level. I think the most important, now that we got Fangio here, who I love, by the way, who I think this is such an amazing hire, the most important thing now is who's going to be our backup quarterback next year. That's, in my opinion, the next big move. And I see some of the fan base just saying, "Oh, this hire means nothing if Tua's the guy to here next year." That's such a horse, comment or thing to say. Getting Fangio automatically puts us as a favorite in the AFC. He will turn this defense around day one. Everybody said, oh, he's not going to come here overnight. Go look at him. The first years when he's there, significant improvement from the year he was there before. So what I think what were we, 22 this year in defense or 24 in defense, Jason? Do you remember?
What we were in defense, we were like
total defense.
Overall, 26 maybe? 26?
All right.
That's my guess.
So I think he significantly improves that by 15.
24th and yeah.
Total defense.
Total defense.
So if you do 10, if he moves us up 10 spots, we're top 15.
You want to hear something crazy? I mean, you mentioned the potential of a top 10 offense and defense. When was the last year the Dolphins were a top 10 offense and defense overall?
1973.
95.
95, okay. All right, well.
Which is, no, but that It was few and far between.
Still a long time.
Still a long time. They were so obviously in 72, they were the number one defense and offense, but in 73 as well. I think 2-1. But it's been decades, and since Marino and that 95 team, they really should have gone to the Super Bowl. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the Dolphins have positioned themselves with Fangio, with the talent on the defense, and I'm going to choose my words carefully with Tua and the quarterback situation, if you don't mind. Tua is in a position that if he is healthy, he can lead this team, and he doesn't have to be the guy. All he has to do is just do his job properly. The defense do their job properly, and mathematically and on paper, there's no reason that this team and Tua cannot succeed together. With the backup quarterback, I agree. They need someone viable who is a backup quarterback and not someone who wants to come on in and compete for a starting role. So there's a fine line between that. So I believe that this team is now structured fully for a quarterback who might not necessarily be the top 5 in true arm talent or overall talent, but all the other intangibles with what Tua has, I think this is now perfect with no excuse other than the health. Other than the health. I do think that there are no excuses right now.
There is none. There are no excuses at all.
Which is also, if we're going to talk about why I do not think that they're going to pick up the 5th-year option when they have to, do that in the next couple of months. This is going to be a bet on yourself kind of situation for yourself. I don't think the Dolphins can commit to it until they see a full season. And the next time they'd have to commit is when they re-sign him anyway. And that's when you would re-sign him. You wouldn't pick up the option. You would just simply re-sign him. So to me, I don't think you pick up the option. You have to see if he plays 16 games and the games that he misses is either rest or because the Dolphins locked up home field and they're resting him on week 18 for the 17th game. But I don't think you pick up the 5th-year option because you just got to see him play that full. And then there's no option to pick up. You extend it because he did it, if he did it.
What do you think it says about Fangio choosing to come here? No matter what the reason, whether it was the highest paid, being the highest paid coordinator, which from every indication he is going to be the highest paid non-head coach in the league. And what does that say about the type of staff he will be able to put here, and how will McDaniel utilize him? How do you see McDaniel utilizing Fangio in the building?
This is a very, very fun hire to track and watch, because I think the knock on Flores was that he didn't hire an individual such as a Fangio, really, who would be almost like, I don't want to use the term a babysitter, but I want to use the term like, a confidant and a mentor, someone who, even if it's behind closed doors, even if it's a final meeting between, head coach and maybe one or two coordinators, I think McDaniel has that, trait to say, how would you do this? What are your thoughts here, Vic?
This is the head coach I wanted last year. Like, not saying Fangio's the coach, but I wanted a former head coach that was a genius as a defense or offensive coordinator that would be able to come in and put a coaching staff together.
I'm going to say, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, they said, in order to get the offensive guy we want, we need to make him the head coach. So they did that with McDaniel. He seems to be a player's coach. The players love him from everything that I have heard. And now on the defensive side, they go out and get this, I know people don't like the word guru, but he is, right? Like, he's a defensive mastermind is such a better way maybe to put it. And he's going to be able to put a coaching staff together here. And the things where McDaniel had shortcomings, if this works out the way we hope it does, is McDaniel and Fangio on Monday morning is going to be like, you shouldn't have did that. You did really good here. In the future, this is how we can do things better. And the last thing you're going to see this year is McDaniel walking down to Fangio saying, you need to clean this shit up, because he's not going to say anything like that to Fangio.
It's a turnkey situation, meaning that, you hand Fangio the roster on the defensive side. It's almost like you're handing a cook the ingredients and just telling him to go cook, and just don't even worry about it, because it's going to come out to be a terrific meal and he's going to get it done. What I like about this is that mentorship, apprenticeship, like I mentioned, and it's almost bringing this whole thing from last year to now in a bit of a full circle, because if we're going to go back in a time machine, and if a defensive coordinator position was open and there wasn't a we're putting Boyer on every candidate. I don't really necessarily know how the coaching search from last year shakes out. It could be different, but it wasn't. It happened to where.
Do you think Sam Madison stays?
You know what? I like him too. I would absolutely like him too.
I think he does, by the way.
But how about this? We have Chris Richard, who is now parting ways with New Orleans. Does he come on and does he take over?
So I'm so glad you said that. Chris Richard's going to be the linebacking coach, I think, right? He was the linebacker. He was the linebacker.
Here's before I jump in, I think he was secondary. I think Richard was secondary.
Yeah, but if Sam Madison's here, Sam Madison will stay secondary.
Yes, but Surtain was also in that role or some sort of a defensive backs coach.
He was an assistant to an assistant.
Right, correct, right. Obviously, Richard's above Surtain, but maybe, and this is speculation again, all
speculation here.
Maybe a lot of this time was not just money, it was, you know what? Who's my staff going to be? You guys
Fangio?
Maybe. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, of course. Of course. Because I mean, look, and again, I hate just like killing this comment, but both my wife and I, we are in staffing, human resources. That's our background. Hiring, firing, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times when there's a sought-after candidate, when everyone and their mother and father and sister and brother know that there's 4 or 5 options that would love to bring this candidate in, there's not only leverage, there's verbiage that goes on to these contracts, whether it's, obviously we're dealing with different things with football coaching and jobs and business, but there are certain called perk packages, call it, what's my staff going to be? How's my staff going to look like? What's my subordinate situation? Do I have this? I got a guy from my other job who will come with me. Am I allowed to bring that guy over? So maybe in the next week and a half, we are seeing names that are taking roles, either staying on staff or coming from other areas that have already been interviewed. But and
I don't mean to interrupt, but in your mind, there's a good possibility that 2 of the 4 candidates that we brought in, along with Fangio, not including Campanelli actually being the odd man out there, and I don't know if he'll stay or not, but Chris Richard and Sean Desai could end up being on the coaching staff with Fangio.
Here's what's the interesting. Well, here's my answer to here's my thought process. Right now, if we're looking at the coaching staff for Miami today, right now, there's an assistant head coach. There's a higher-end defensive assistant coach in Sam Madison, the assistant head coach being John Embry, who's the tight end coach as well. But he has that slash to the title and is right now Mike McDaniel's assistant head coach. So is Vic Fangio someone who would have wanted that title?
They can make him the associate coach.
Exactly.
I have no clue what that means or what is involved in that. But I think he would be the associate head coach.
I honestly think that, it's setting up great for the experience factor for McDaniel. It's almost like if you morph these 2 people together, Fangio and McDaniel, you have an offensive. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like you have Thanos putting all the stones in the gauntlet. And it's like
I love that analogy.
Seriously, if you literally put these 2 together, the love child of McDaniel and Fangio is literally a Super Bowl winning coach in all hopefulness. But I hope this marriage works out from, I guess the sideline relationship, the interweek relationship where it's I hope these guys have a relationship where it's just friendly and not even scheming together. It's Fangio has the autonomy to do whatever he wants, where let's say a defense in the first half is not looking good. I don't think McDaniel is going to have to go up to him and say, hey, fix it. I think Fangio will be like this. I got it. Relax. If it comes to that, but we need that. We need someone who could put a hand up to a young coach and say, I'm on it. I'll fix it. Relax. Been there before. That's what we got in Fangio, and I think that's the best thing we can hope for is the experience on the non-expertise side of the ball. Our head coach is the offense. Our coordinator is the stalwart defensive coordinator who is going to squeeze every amount of talent out of the guys that we need the most talent squeezed out of, because we already know there's huge talent in maybe 3 or 4 players on the defensive side of the ball. I'm talking huge Pro Bowl, All-Pro talent with Xavier, Javon Holland, Christian Wilkins. And then you look at the guys who Vic Fangio could really turn into potential Pro Bowlers. I mean, Wilkins will be a Pro Bowl, let's face it. Zach Sealer, Jalen Phillips. Let's get that 12-sack-plus year out of Jalen Phillips. Let's turn a Kader Kohu or a Nick Needham or a Brandon Jones into one of his maybe Justin Simmons kind of products, you know? Fangio turned 3 different players into 3 Pro Bowlers in 3 years in Denver. Linebacker, defensive end, safety. One of those players was Bradley Chubb. So let's maybe get that maximized out of Chubb too. So I love it. I love it. I love it. It's almost what can go wrong, right? What can go wrong now?
Look, I look at this breaking news. For those of you who are just joining us, Adam Schefter tweeting out a little bit ago, breaking news for the Miami Dolphins. After speaking with multiple teams about their defensive coordinator position, Fangio has decided to join the Dolphins as their defensive coordinator and will officially accept the position on the Miami staff after the Super Bowl. To me, that's just the best news that we can get as a franchise right now. We said that we weren't going to have a big offseason. I think that kind of changes now a little bit. Fangio says, I want somebody. Greer's going to go out and make the move to go out and get whoever Fangio wants. I think everything's on the table now from a defensive standpoint, including seeing somebody like Byron stay. If Byron says, I want to play for Fangio, I'll play for Fangio. The scenario still exists. Everything is on the table for the Miami Dolphins. And for me, understanding the moves that they made last year on the offensive side of the ball, and now them addressing the defensive side of the ball, and let's see where they go with personnel decisions. How can you not be excited about this move? The Dolphins are in my opinion, I've talked a lot of trash about Stephen Ross. I've said a lot of things about that man. But I can tell you between last offseason and him opening up his checkbook and saying, what do you want, Fangio, for this? I got to give Stephen Ross credit last offseason and this offseason so far. He is doing everything he can, in my opinion, to support the person, the Greer and McDaniel, to give them what they need to win a Super Bowl. And if Greer and McDaniel, the only thing that you, as a fan base, you want to question is the quarterback situation, so be it. But understand everywhere else, the Dolphins are doing everything they can to be the team that they need to be, which is a Super Bowl contending team. And I feel like you don't need a top 10 quarterback if everything else around you is great. And by the way, I'm not saying that Tua can't be that guy if he stays healthy. Because he's shown spurts of it this past year. I'm excited for the Dolphins, man. I think this is a great move. I think moving in this direction for me says that, hey, they're doing everything they can to be a Super Bowl contending team. And you guys can give me the quarterback debacle argument all you want. We are potentially going to have a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense in the NFL next season. And if that isn't a Super Bowl contender, I don't know what is.
You go out in the market and you get the best inside linebacker you can. You draft 1, 2, and you take Channing Tindall and you make him your project. So you're covering 3 potential bases, and you could potentially have 3 hits, meaning Channing Tindall could be a hit. You bring in a veteran who should be on paper a hit. And I'm looking at that second-round pick, which is our first-round draft pick, to get a linebacker or an interior lineman offensively. But I really would need to see some more linebackers, because there were 5 free agents going into this offseason that the Dolphins have to make decisions on, which I guarantee 3 of them ain't coming back. So at best, you might be talking about 2 coming back out of a group that has some okay role players in it. But it also wouldn't shock me if they go completely new, being that now Fangio is a guy who might say, this guy was with me in Denver. I know of him from Chicago. I have roots with him from this or that or the other thing. Same idea if he brings coaches from other teams. Let's see where that plays.
I'm telling you, I think Sean Desai comes over from Seattle, and I like what you said. I think Chris Richard, too, can also come over as well.
I think that what the Dolphins did, I mean, look, Fangio is no spring chicken. So hopefully
do you think that they somebody said this, and now I think there's merit to it, that I was really upset with the coaching interviews besides Fangio. I was like, really? Chris Richard? Really?
They were perfect.
Really, Campanelli? Were they interviewing his coaching staff for him to see if you wanted to come on and be? You think that's what that was?
Thought that. I don't see Campanelli going anywhere, but they got an interview with him, which tells me that Campanelli's a young guy.
It was, hey, we appreciate you. We want you to stay. We want you to be under Fangio's tree.
Right. And now it also says, I mean, look, again, Fangio, how many years is he going to be our defensive coordinator, whether it's through the fruition of his career or if he does such a good job that he becomes a head coaching candidate somewhere. That's not out of the realm of possibility either, of course. And there have to be permission seek, but what have you. Campanelli is young enough where he had basically an interview to maybe get the philosophy. Let's see what he's thinking. Let's see. All right, you know what? In a year or two, we have to revisit this. We have an in-house guy that we've already spoken with. So we've gotten that first round out of the way. So I think it was a good move to interview Campanelli. It also was like a plan D emergency break the glass plan. You know, the Desai and Richard thing, if they bring both of those guys in, I mean, then this is a master class of this.
The defensive side of the ball will be absolutely amazing as far as, and then, keeping Campanelli, keeping maybe Sam Madison. Like, I mean, come on, this goes down as one of the best defensive coaching staffs in the NFL, top to bottom.
It would give me, and I know I've seen it before, what we now have here, we have young offensive guru who's likable and lovable with stalwart kind of defensive-minded NFL veteran. It screams Rams from a couple of years ago, McVay and Wade Phillips, and that's what you really have to pray that this is. But what, again, I'll say it, the Dolphins and Chris Grier, they have set up for when this thing clicks, and hopefully it does, there very well could be 5+ years of, I'm talking 10 games, 11 games, 12 games wins, and not talking about if we're making
don't do that to me.
No,
don't
but I am. But I'm gonna
tease me, Jason.
Because this is what, and I know I put the glasses on, the optimism on, but if you look at what all of their structured moves, all their contracts, everything that they're trying to do is set up for this decision. Is Tua the franchise guy? And if we have to make him the franchise guy with a huge contract, are we still able to retain most of the talent that makes it easy for him? And lo and behold, when you really look at it, they can. They can have a team with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, no money spent on running backs, essentially. They can find these players that they've been finding to sprinkle in and not have to spend millions of dollars like your Cater Kohus, like your Nick Needhams, who hopefully they bring back. So this team is structured for hopeful longevity success if the quarterback clicks, especially with defensive Fangio now on the ball.
All right, so Fangio obviously has a domino effect in many different ways. The free agency market is going to be another way that I think Fangio affects. How many veteran free agents on the defensive side are going to look at Fangio being here and what we're doing in South Beach and saying, I want to come and play for the Dolphins and Fangio and McDaniel? How do you think that's going to affect players saying, I'll take less money to come play here to play under this person?
Of course. I mean, look, if it's a guy who has helped that person before, there's familiarity there, 100%, if there's a guy who just said, hey, I'd love to play like this player who said great things about this coach. Yeah, sure. It helps. It absolutely helps. And I'm looking at the Broncos teams of the last couple of years to see what free agents on the defensive side of the ball, could want to reunite with him.
All right. Inside linebacker, Deion Jones will be available, 28 years old, from Cleveland. Marcus Peters, he'll be a free agent. Defensive tackle Fletcher Cox, Robert Quinn, Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrove, Yannick Nkoku of Indianapolis. He'll be a free agent. Levante David.
I was going to say Levante
David because easily come here and want to play for Fangio. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to look at Jordan Poyer, that name's already been linked to the Dolphins. You know,
I will say,
Jimmy Ward, San Fran.
With the Dolphins, they spent a lot of money last year, and they also made trades with needing to spend a lot of money. Remember, they extended Chubb. So when you look at guys like a Teron Armstead, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, they're going to need to put money towards Christian Wilkins. They're going to need to put money eventually towards Zach Sealer. They're going
Devin Bush, by the way.
Devin Bush and Levante David, if they're going to make a huge splash, I think it'll be at that position. I don't see them making huge, in plural, free agent splashes. And I think, but if there is one position that they really need to get, they need Vic Fangio to say, that's the guy. That's my guy. Pay him. And that could be the effect that you're talking about, where if a Levante David, let's say, now wants to play for a coach that has those proven results, maybe it would have been a better situation to say, wow, I'm 33. Do I want to play for a coordinator who's about 5 years older?
Tremaine Edmonds, Denzel Perryman. Those are all free agents this year. I'm like going through the free agents.
Devin Bush is more appealing because he's a lot younger, but he's going to cost probably a heck of a lot more.
Safety Jesse Bates out of Cincinnati. He'll be available this year.
I want to curb the enthusiasm on a Poyer because, with things like a Needham and Brandon Jones coming back to join Javon Holland and Xavier in the secondary, I don't want to mess with that dynamic,
And what are I got all these questions in my head now, and not questions, just thoughts. Xavier and Howard restructuring his deal, right? Like to me, that's going to happen. That has to happen. He's going to do it.
He has no layup, and I appreciate X. I loved Prime X in his prime, which is not here anymore. He had, I guess, the ability, and I'm not bringing that whole drama because it's such a long-winded situation from his whole contract, his former agent, the new agent, the fact that it was a renegotiation of a previous renegotiated extension. A lot of differentiation between traditional contract extensions and what Xavier Howard's was. But he's less skilled than that. And the Dolphins have to go to him and say, X, we got a team now. We got to restructure. And he has to abide. Like, he's got to abide. Because the Dolphins wouldn't be able to trade him for anything remotely decent. And if Howard could take a little less money, knowing that there's a lot of good youth around him, maybe he has to play a couple of less snaps, keep him healthy for the longevity of the season playoff run. He's got to take less money.
Jeff Darlington tweeted 13 minutes ago, Mike McDaniel was willing to bring Fangio to Miami last year when he first arrived, but he also understood the team's desires to keep Boyer after a solid 2021 defense. I never sensed McDaniel viewed Boyer as a lame duck, but when it didn't work out, this became the clear path. You agree with Jeff Darlington?
1,000%. I mean, number one, it's Jeff Darlington. So he is massively punched in. I mean, I'm talking about like this guy knows. That's exactly what happened. Boyer was not going anywhere last year. And that's what I'm saying. It's very interesting full circle. To me, it's a complete full circle where you have to literally cut bait from everything last year, the mess, and now you're going forward. Yeah, Vic Fangio would have been great this year, and who knows what's going to happen, but there was an anchor put in the middle of that room when people were interviewing, and it was named Josh Boyer, and no one was moving it for whatever reason. He was not going anywhere, and lame duck or not, Boyer didn't do anything in this year's lifeblood of his season to defend his job. We're talking a bottom barrel defense. So lame duck or not, we got Vic Fangio, the guy that retrospectively would have been great to have last year. So now I'm saying, now to me, it's all systems go, and I don't want to hear it. This is it. There's no excuse.
So, all right. So let's. I wanted to get into Danny Crossman and the special teams coordinator, but that last sentence I think we need to get into is the excuse train for the Dolphins. So there are some people that are in the chat, and even on Twitter, because I'm on Twitter right now, and I'm just refreshing, and it's going crazy right now. There's a good proportion of the fan base. By the way, Caslin143 says X's contract is dead. You can't do anything with it for 2 years. Chubb, you will get the money when they switch it to bonus. That's possible. I still think you have to renegotiate X's contract, and I think you
There's
can.
always and again,
there's always a way, and I think they will.
When it comes to all this calculating of cap, the Dolphins are top 3-5 in the league of doing that. Yeah. And it's Greer, it's Shore, it's all the minions that they have under them working those numbers, whatever their Excel spreadsheets and pivot tables and VLOOKUPs are. If they need to get $12 million, they're going to get it.
Yeah.
They need $50 million, they're going to get that too. They do that very well.
Let me go back to the original comment. Is there are some people that are saying we can do all this, but you're not going to sit here and lie to us. We know we're not going to be able to win games with Tua. Why? I guess my first question is, why does it always come back to Tua?
Right.
And how do we approach fans that are just dead set that it doesn't matter what we do anywhere else? If Tua's the guy, it's not going to be possible.
See,
help me with them.
I'm gonna do my best, and this is something that has been on my mind ever since the tank for Tua and everything. And again, Steven, I know I got a couple of maybe years up on you, so maybe I had a little bit more Marino.
Just a couple.
I had a little bit more Marino to watch. You know, we saw the best person in the world to throw a football. I'm not talking about your Brady's and Montanas. I'm talking about when it was 4th and 5 and you needed a first down, the receiver just needed to do this. And the ball dropped in his hands. Time after time, Marino was the best in the business. And we watched stats. We got the 340, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, but a win sometimes. We got that. Then we got the awesome defenses of your Taylors, Thomases, Surtans, and Madisons. But the offense was not always there because we didn't have the Marino in him. We had a Fiedler and then the other quarterbacks until those guys retired on defense. Now we have the best of both worlds as much as we can. We're ready for this, Steven. And I'm sorry for the fantasy players out there. I'm sorry. But let me give you a stat line that I would love to see week in and week out next year for Tua. 17 of 26. 225, 2 and 0. I don't care if he throws for 327 yards. I don't care if he throws for 4 touchdowns. Ready for this? I'm going to blow your mind. He doesn't need to.
He won't next year.
He won't need
Not with the top 15 defense. In my opinion, I think it'll be top 10.
You put a defense on the field that says, Tua, Bubala, you don't need 75 yards. We gave you 13. We gave you 40. We gave you 25 after this turnover. You know what? You're up by, give us 15, give us 14 points. I don't know why I said 15. Give us 14 points. We're going to give up 9. You don't have to do it. Sanders will add a couple of field goals. We got Morstead coffin cornering when you guys can't do it, but don't worry. You don't need to throw 40 times. McDaniel will close the game out with the runners that we're going to, one, retain. They're going to bring in a nice 1A starting running back in the crop of hugely talented running backs. We're not going to go after a Saquon Barkley, can't afford it. Not going to go after a Josh Jacobs, can't afford it. You pay for one of those guys, you detriment a lineman you can get offensively that'll help the runner. You detriment a defensive toy for Fangio. This team is not going to pay top dollar for a running back. Again, don't have to. You get 2 guys who could consistently churn 4.7, 4.8 yards per carry and lean on them 30 times a game, 25 times a game.
I said any running back that averages over 4.5 yards per carry, I'm good with.
If you're going 4.8 yards per carry across 2 backs, which Mostert and Jeff Wilson were, they just weren't utilized very consistently.
Which, by the way, I'd like to think McDaniel will change that philosophy a little bit going into next year. Personally,
being run to pass to run selection.
I just think my real quick. Let me just cook here. I said that this year McDaniel was going in with how he wanted to run his offense this year. Good, bad, or indifferent, in whatever way it was going to happen, this is how he was going to run it. He wasn't going to make big changes to it because he wanted to have a good data to be able to use for the future. And I said, next year, I think we'll see, McDaniel make different changes throughout the year and during games because he will see where he went wrong the previous year and why it doesn't always behoove him to keep a particular offense in a game or against a particular team or against a particular player. I think we will see McDaniel make so many more changes this offseason and into next year, and even in the middle of games next year where we're going to be like, man, if you had done this last year, we would have won 2 more games. You're a different coach this year, because he's a second-year head coach and he's going to learn from his mistakes, and I think that's going to benefit him going forward. Just my personal opinion.
Oh, I agree fully. And frankly, if we're going to dissect an individual like a Mike McDaniel, Ivy Leaguer, which tells me that obviously he's an academic, and this is the kind of person that probably got ticked off with himself if he got a 93 on a test. And he's going to probably want to know where he missed those 7 points. And maybe he would ask someone older, superior, smarter, where he can make up those 7 points. So maybe to me, he's asking Fangio, hey, Vic, take me through my challenges. I was 1 for 5 last year. What would have you done? Where did I miss? Hey, by the way, did you have someone who you dedicated whose only job was to look at the replays for the flag? How do you handle this situation? I want him to find out where did I lose those 2 games? That's the guy to ask.
That's what I think Fangio brings to the table. But again, to the conversation at hand, to fans that are not excited right now because of the quarterback situation or what you deem as, I don't know what else to tell you. But I promise y'all on everything, this is the most exciting Dolphins team we have had in the last 30 years. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. The offensive side looks like it's going to start coming together more. It was still an explosive offense. We still had 2 wide receivers at over 1,000 yards each, right? And you have a defense that now has a top 3, one of the top coordinators in all of the NFL. I don't know what else to tell you to not get excited, because what you want is perfection, and that doesn't exist. Tua is the guy. Tua is who we're going with. We are building the team around him on the offense and defensive side of the ball. We are going to win some football games next year. I don't care that the Dolphins have the second most record. Why am I having a brain fart? They have the second worst scheduling of any team.
I want to talk about it for a quick second. I know it looks scary.
Scary. I didn't know.
It looks very scary. Yeah. But this year, it's also based on this year's records, right? When you look at the East of the NFC, which is the conference that the AFC plays, so everyone plays the NFC East, and the AFC East as a whole had a very competitive record, and that's where it goes by. So you're playing AFC East twice, you're playing I'm not buying into such a horrific situation that the Dolphins have the second hardest schedule, because the whole AFC is in that boat in the top 8, and NFC is in that boat as well, basically. So the East had an excellent bunch of seasonal records this season. So, I'm not taking such horrible stock in it. They're still going to play the Jets twice. They're going to play the Pats twice. They're going to be able to hopefully beat the Commanders, I think, and we'll dissect the record in the hardest schedule next year. But I'm not.
Yeah, look, who cares at the end of the day? Like, it's not who cares.
Teams changed,
Exactly. And the Dolphins, to me, are getting better. They're evolving. They're getting better. They made the playoffs this year. They went toe-to-toe with the number 2 seed. They almost won with a 3rd-string quarterback and a depleted defense. Now we're upgrading at the defensive side tremendously from a coaching and person. And you got to think the personnel is going to get upgraded to a certain extent too. Everything's going to get better. Like I'm going to say, like, we are going to be Super Bowl contenders next year. We should be Super Bowl contenders next year.
Yes. Now, of course, we have to wait for a couple of cycles of free agency re-signings, whatever. But I think that the Dolphins are going to be shopping in a very strategic bunch of aisles in terms of free agency. I would like to see a perfect backup quarterback who is not going in knowing that there could be a competition at starter, or Tua might not be the guy. It's just a backup quarterback, right? Because Skylar Thompson should be the guy that says, no, I'm the backup quarterback. So to create a number 2, number 3 with Skylar and a veteran, I like that dynamic. You Case Keenum. I don't know. You sign Case Keenum for a 1 year.
I don't want Keenum. We could get into that. But it's what I said. It's what I said about 45 minutes ago. I said the backup quarterback will be the most important signing this offseason. He will be. He will be.
But then again, you don't want a guy like a Jimmy Garoppolo. That's too much money. That's too much hunger.
I disagree. I said yesterday I think Jimmy Garoppolo would be a great fit here.
The money's there. I don't know if the money's there.
Again, I have no. The salary cap's not real, and Chris Greer is a genius when it comes to the cap. So
give me that.
You know, that's my feeling on it. You know, and so if I think Garoppolo would be an amazing thing. And because you could easily bring in Garoppolo here with the intent that Garoppolo is going to be the backup, Tua is going to be the starter. And the moment Tua goes down, which all history shows that he will, okay, you have a capable starter that you can still win football games with and go deep into the playoffs, if not the Super Bowl, right? So, look, in my opinion, I think we are in a great position to do some heavy damage next year in the NFL. And if you're not excited about it and Vic Fangio doesn't excite you, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you if you're not excited about Vic Fangio being the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. But it is such a huge thing. It's exactly what I wanted. Last year, I was like, man, give me a longtime coordinator that's been a head coach somewhere else in the NFL. That's the head coach I want. Steven, we're not going to get him. We're going to go with the young guru, the young, coordinator, the offensive scheme master, whatever adjective or name you want to call him. We're going to go with this young, hot, successful guy in Mike McDaniel, and that's who we're going with. Okay, great. What type of coaching staff you can bring in? Oh, you're not letting him pick the defensive coordinator? You're going to – okay, that's fine. Well, then all I hope is that when the defense fails next year, which it did, in my opinion, that he's able to bring in some veteran defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio's available? Hello, let's go. Fangio's the guy. What makes me even more excited about the Dolphins not doing Dolphins things, Fangio is the guy that they wanted. They pretty much, there were 3 other interviews. Okay, an in-house person and 2 young up-and-coming guys. Fangio is the guy that they wanted. They had their sights set on him. They closed the deal and made it happen. They said, let's go. We want you here. Here's a blank check. Come to Miami. Let's win us a Super Bowl, baby. Come on. I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Like I said before, with the excitement, it comes with the expectation, because that's when things get a little dicey in this fandom, in this fan base. When the expectation is there, that's when things kind of fall a little short in recent memory. But again, I have not seen an offense and defense with this talent since maybe you have 1995, you got 2003, 2. But then, you don't have all those components that you potentially have now with what was advertised. We're talking a 5th overall drafted quarterback, not a guy, not a journeyman quarterback in the early 2000s. You're talking about, obviously we don't have a Ricky Williams, but the league isn't, how many Ricky Williams are there in the league these days? 3?
2, maybe 3.
Right. You got Derrick Henry, you got Nick Chubb, then who? Then you got, Scat Bats. Well, Saquon, right?
Christian McCaffrey. So there's 4.
Christian McCaffrey obviously just touches the ball and is a great runner, but not like your I guess Jerome.
But those are the top 4 running backs. After that is a huge drop off.
Point is, you don't spend $15 million a year for one. You're going to spend $7 million for 3, like the Dolphins did last year. I mean, Raheem Mostert was a $2.8 million guy. Jeff Wilson, 2.5. So let's say they bring back Mostert on a $4 million deal. They give him $4 million. I don't think they're going to do the same for Mostert. I'm sorry, for Wilson. So let's say they bring back Mostert. I would love a guy like,
my dream, I have one dream.
Alexander Madison would be great.
Actually, I have 2 dreams. Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is my number 1. I would love to get Tony Pollard. If we get Tony Pollard, boy, I'm telling you all right now, let's go.
Idealistically, I would love him. I love Tony Pollard. Of course, he has the injury. Let's hope that he gets 100% healthy just from.
That's why I kind of hope the Dolphins go out and get him.
Because he'd be a little bit of a discount, sure. But
that's a discount. You get him on the cheap, and he would come back at the second half of the year. It would be like getting a free. You know what I'm saying? I'd be all for Tony Pollard. Let's go.
Here's what I'll say. If when the running back market is done and the top 5 paid running backs are paid for and signed with new teams, I don't think the Dolphins are going to be one of those top 5 teams. If they're able to get Pollard at a discount and say, you know what, we're going to have to give you, a fraction of what you might have wanted, but still a good fraction, prove us wrong. We'll incentivize it, whatever. Sure. But I don't think the Dolphins are going top 5 running back, and that's pending any franchise tags and add in a guy if I'm missing. Your Saquons, your Miles Sanders, your Josh Jacobs, your Pollards.
Let me ask you something. How many points did we score per game last year on offense?
19? I don't know.
Does anybody know that? What was our points per game on offense last year?
I'll find that out. I mean, let's see.
I'm really interested to know that because I got something here. I just want to clarify.
They scored 397 points, so divided by 17 games. $23.3 points per game.
All right, and how many did our defense allow last year? What was points per game on defense allowed last year? More, right?
Holy shit! They gave up 2 more yards. They gave up 2 more points. The point differential was -2.
So you got to think next year our offense is going to improve a little bit. Let's say 2 or 3 points. It'll improve 2 or 3 points next year. And our defense points are significantly, in my opinion, going to go down at least by, let's say, 5 points. You don't need to do much different. I think offenses next year, let's say 20 points per game we allow. 20 points per game. That's a lot, by the way. I think it'll be less than that. But let's say it's 20 points per game. And we were at 24. If we go up 3, that's 27. We're going to win the games.
Here's another thing.
Right now,
here's another thing.
The Dolphins will be
another thing. What Fangio?
We're going to win some games next year, y'all. We are going to win some football games.
I did this stat study, I think, like a week ago when we were all hoping Fangio was coming in. He's got a disciplined unit. The penalties are going to come down drastically. And even in Flores' best year, they were like 11th in penalties. Every other year, in the last 8 years, the Dolphins average mid-20s in penalties against, and they've given up top 10, top 12 most penalty yardage. So I got to tell you, you're a young guy, you're a young cornerback, linebacker going back into the huddle, having to face Josh Boyer. All right, great, got a flag, whatever. Going back, having to face a Vic Fangio.
Fangio ain't gonna take that like that.
That's a different story. I don't think I've ever seen Boyer ream out any player, really get into it as a coach. I don't want to see Vic Fangio ream out anybody because he's got that head coach in him, he's got that veteran in him, he's got that Northeast kind of tough guy kind of mindset. I wouldn't want to go back into a practice or watch tape with Fangio knowing that I got 2 yellows on 3rd down. I wouldn't want that.
I'm trying to get Daniel Oyefusi on for like 5 minutes.
That'd be great. But to get back to where the Dolphins are going to spend their money, I think that the premium dollars are spent where you need it to be spent at the moment. Maybe one position you could throw in with that purebred linebacker that they need, but doubles and triples this year in free agency and not home runs like last year was, because they hit like 4 home runs or at least swung for the fences.
They did swing for the fences, and I know that they said they're not going to go out and get any big time major free agents, but the one thing about the whole Brady thing is I was like, Brady's going to be able to bring free agents in here. I feel the same way about Fangio. Fangio's played with so many players under him. How many players that are veterans that are like, I would love to go play in South Florida. Who's not going to come here on a veteran deal, on a veteran minimum deal, and be like, yeah, I'll go play with Fangio and try to win a ring down in Miami. 100%.
The good thing is that I feel like the Dolphins have set themselves up for limited questions asked back to a person that you just said yourself. Where's the questions? Yeah, but this. Yeah, but that. Where is it? Yeah, but the weather. Beautiful weather. Yeah, but this. Taxes. Yeah, but this. They got a great coaching staff. There's really no answer to why is it a negative to go down to the Dolphins. Whereas maybe 4 years ago there was some question.
Look, I think I'm very excited to see where the Dolphins move forward in this. I think the coaching staff, I'm very excited to see who his coaching staff's going to be. If it comes to fruition that Campanelli, Desai, and Chris Richard all end up being under his coaching staff, then I'm convinced all three of those interviews were quote unquote shams, and they just were interviewing his potential coaching staff to come here. And I think there's a good chance that Campanelli, Richard, and Desai all come on the coaching staff, which would be crazy. All right, hey, I got Daniel Oyefusi. He's going to come on here in a second. He's
nice.
He's pulling in. Let me. I got Daniel Oyefusi of the Miami Herald coming in. Let me send him the link. There we go. Clipboard. There we go. I'm sending them the link now. Daniel Oyefusi coming on. We're going to talk about the Vic Fangio signing. Oh man, I'm excited. This. Come on, man. Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show. Clock Blockers right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. If you like what you're watching right now and you're a fan of the Miami Dolphins, hit the like button, baby. Donate to the channel. Help the channel grow. Man, I've not been this excited in a long, long time. Long time.
And there should be massive excitement.
And by a long time, I mean last year, because I was excited last year in the offseason too. But now I feel like I'm seeing Chris Greer's vision. I'm seeing what he's doing, and I can tell you personally, I don't think I've seen this from a GM and back-to-back off seasons. So yeah, man, I'm super stoked about it. All right, I'm just waiting for Daniel to join in the back room, and then we're gonna bring Daniel on. And yeah, that's a good way to end Throwback Thursday, Jason.
I love it, man. I love it.
It's gonna be good. Hey, if you like what you're watching right now, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. We're about to bring on Daniel Oyefusi of the Miami Herald. We're going to talk about, Vic Fangio signing, why it took so long. We're going to get into all those questions. I'm hoping to have him on for about 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how his connection is, because he's out and about. I think he's in the car. So he's like, I got to pull over and I'll come on.
Wherever he is, I'm sure he's warmer than we are right now in the Northeast.
It is a little chilly.
It's a little chilly.
A little chilly. Man, I'm just waiting. Real quick, if you guys are interested tonight, the Pro Bowl games will be live at 7 p.m.
Water balloon.
I know, water balloons tonight. The Pro Bowl. If you missed the beginning of the show, you got to go back and listen to it. We did a rundown of that. But yeah. Oh, all right. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't talked to this man in a long time, but I do love him. He is the man. He used to come on all the time. He's your best friend, your neighborhood friendly beat writer. I'm talking about Daniel Oyefusi. What's up, baby?
What's
going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Just trying to enjoy the off season, keeping a watch on Fangio watch. So
bro, you can't. There's no off season for you, man. You're like, I'm out here running errands, and all of a sudden this news breaks, and I got to go write.
Yeah. My editor's like, "You see the Fangio news?" I was like, "I hope it's not like the worst." And I was like, all right, you still coming here? And I was like, all right, it's not that bad, but I'm glad to be. It's been a while for sure.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, Daniel Oyefusi is the #1 beat writer for the Miami Dolphins, but he's part of the Miami Herald. Let's go into this, man. So about a week and a half ago, the news kind of rang out that Fangio was, in for an interview along with 3 other people, Campanelli, Chris Richard, and Sean Desai. But obviously Fangio being the favorite. A few days later, it's kind of reported Fangio has agreed to terms verbally, but nothing else. Tom Pelissero obviously broke that news. But then Josina Anderson's that comes out a couple days or a day later saying, well, nothing's official yet. And then beat writers from Denver saying, well, I spoke to Fangio and he says that he hasn't made a decision yet. And then Dolphins Twitter just goes in an uproar, and you and I both have seen it. What did you know a week ago? Like, give me your timeline over the last week.
Yeah, so I mean, that really is much of the timeline. I mean, I, as well as, several other local, Dolphins reporters, after the initial NFL Network report, we a lot of us had received confirmation as well that, and I want to preface my comments by saying I think that semantics and wording played a big role in a lot of this. But the confirmation from a lot of like the local reporters here was they had agreed to terms to make Vic Fangio their next offensive coordinator. So obviously they had not announced anything that day. They didn't announce anything. They still have not announced anything. But by all accounts, it was like a verbal agreement. Like, okay, we agreed to the terms of this. Da 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 da. All right, bet we'll sign the contract, or we'll agree that we want to join.
We want to go into this relationship together, you and I.
Exactly, but it's funny. Like the past couple of days, like I got my master's in sports law and whatnot, and like
did you really?
I did, yeah. I have, yeah. I got it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Big deal, Daniel.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was like going back to my old like notebooks, and I'm like, all right, fundamentals of contract law. And I'm like, am I missing something? And I'm like, no, I mean, it was a verbal agreement. It's obviously kind of weird. There's been some cases in sports history, Josh McDaniels and others were like, all right,
the Indianapolis Colts saga, right?
Yeah, they agreed to something.
Bill Belichick back with the Jets and the Patriots.
Exactly. You agree to something verbally. You don't necessarily sign it, making it contractually binding, and then you step behind. I mean, I thought it was kind of one of those situations where they agreed to something verbally. I mean, I know there were some people saying that maybe because he's a defensive consultant with the Philadelphia Eagles, and by all accounts, that wasn't necessarily prohibiting him from like leaving that duty immediately and joining. It's not like he was an actual like coaching, an actual coach or coordinator or whatever. But there were some accounts and some people that were hypothesizing that, hey, maybe he wants to respect the Eagles, complete the season in 2 weeks, then he'll join. Obviously, it seems that maybe there were some back channels and people reaching out to him and saying, hey, we still would like to consider you. I mean, I know that Josina herself reported that the 49ers were interested. So, yeah, I mean, he was obviously somebody in high demand. Again, it was clear that there was some mix-up in kind of communication between the agent and whatnot and the Dolphins, and they had thought that, all right, they had an agreement. Or maybe Fangio, hadn't officially been like, all right, I'm definitively coming. And again, it was a lot of semantics because, there were a lot of, again, like you said, the reporters, some of the Denver reporters, national reporters said that they talked to Vic Fangio and they said that nothing had been finalized. Nothing was final. Well, of course, nothing had been finalized because he didn't sign anything. So, of course. So I think maybe
it's wording. It's wording at the end of the day, and how people are interpreting verbiage. Let me ask you Let me ask you another question. I'll let Jason go after this one. As far as you knew, was there a verbal agreement in place and he still was going out and talking to the 49ers about the defense?
That's one thing I have to claim ignorance on that. I'm not sure if it was the agent kind of rushing to accept the terms and maybe Fangio, not himself. But it was clear that there were still outside interest and people still kind of communicating one way or another with him to let him know that there was some interest there. Because, again, even the latest report, it was like after speaking to multiple people.
I don't know if you saw Josina Anderson's tweet in the last 30 minutes. She's basically saying that the 49ers dragged their feet, and that's why Fangio said, forget this. This is ridiculous. And so, I mean, and that's kind of what happened with the 49ers deal there. I don't know if you saw her tweet about that.
No, I didn't see that. I didn't see that tweet. I'd seen the one initially that they had an interest in talking to him, but I hadn't even seen like a formal request on that part. So, but again, obviously there were still kind of some back channel communications and with some other teams, and he was trying to make sure that this was exactly the right destination for him. He decided that it is. So, he's coming after it. And I really did think kind of, me personally, just not even like sourcing it. Like I would have been very surprised if, he had kind of done a 180 and then went somewhere else. the Dolphins clearly thought that they had an agreement in place, and they did have an agreement in place. So whether it was some type of miscommunication or, some other teams trying to get in at the, last hour, the Dolphins themselves thought that they had a deal, which is why, there was so much reporting that they were confident that he was still, going to come to Miami, and he is, it'll be after the Super Bowl and whatnot, but he's still coming.
Daniel, my question for you is, basically when you say like the terms, the semantics, was part of this potentially staff, maybe / title, defensive coordinator / associate? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times when you're kind of ironing out the last little bit of logistics with these type of hires, a lot of times it is stuff like that. I mean, it was clear that in terms of the money side, I mean, the financial side, I mean, they had that, he's going to be the highest paid coordinator in the NFL and whatnot, but obviously, there's maybe it's like, all right, we agreed to the general terms and we're kind of ironing out the last bit of stuff here and there. So it could have been stuff like that. But again, I mean, the framework of the agreement was in place. I mean, they had it. I mean, they had it. I think that, just looking at the manner of it, I mean, that wouldn't have come out if there wasn't some confidence on either side that, they reached an agreement and come to mutual terms on, him becoming the defensive coordinator. It was clear that, they had agreed to something, but whether it was lost in translation, or again, and what my opinion and my thinking is that there were some other teams kind of in the last minute trying to get in and say, hey, we'd still like to consider you as well. I think that was a bit of it, but I really do think it was a lot of just semantics and wording. And then a lot of people were freaking out about, oh, he said that the deal isn't done, and I'm like, yeah, the deal is never done until you sign on
the dotted line.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Miami Sports Music's #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. I have Miami Herald's beat writer, Daniel Oyefusi, on. We're talking about the latest news that Adam Schefter tweeted out in the last hour that Vic Fangio will become the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator, and everything will be signed on the dotted line after the Super Bowl. Let me ask you another question, Daniel. One of the things that I find, this is a theory that I have, that the other 3 interviews, Campanelli, Richard, and Desai, were interviewed with the Dolphins because they are going to be a part of the coaching staff for Fangio. Is that something that you have heard? Is there? What do you think about that theory or that thought process?
I think it's possible. I mean, we've seen. I think there's been instances of that, in the past when teams. I was gonna say more so for maybe like head coaching opportunities where sometimes you just kind of want to pick somebody's brain and see where they're at. That definitely is a possibility. I would say, especially for Chris Richard, given that he's been let out of his deal with the Saints. Now, obviously, they said that there was kind of a not mutual agreement on kind of the future and the shape that the defense should take. But he's somebody that is available. I mean, that's an interesting question in itself, just who's going to be part of the staff, because I don't think that, I remember when they brought Boyer along, they had kind of made a little bit of shuffling across the defensive coaching staff. But for the most part, they kept a lot of like the really beloved and respected assistants. In getting rid of Boyer now, they dismissed, Tom McKenzie, Steve Gregory, some other assistants. But if you're giving Fangio all this money and giving him, this big title and expecting him to, as Mike McDaniel was said and previously, be the head coach of the defense, I would think that would come with a lot of authority on who he wants to coach with. So that's definitely a possibility. I definitely think that they for sure had eyed, if Fangio had not fallen into place. I think they definitely had eyed Chris Richard and Sean Desai. I don't think that it was just simply, maybe
some tactics.
Yeah, I don't think it was just like, we'll gauge if maybe they have interest in coming on as assistant, afterward. I think that they genuinely had eyed those guys if Fangio didn't, fall if it had kind of fallen through. But it will be interesting. Because again, Chris,
I think all 3 of those guys end up on the coaching staff. I really do.
No, say it again.
I said I think all three of those guys could end up under him and on his coaching staff.
Yeah, for sure. I think because they're all in kind of like unique positions. I'll say with Desai as well. I mean, he's one of Vic Fangio's like biggest mentees. Like he said it himself. Like that's my biggest mentor in the NFL. He's in a spot where he's kind of in a weird situation with the Seahawks, where he has like an associate head coach of defense role there. So I feel like maybe there's a little more security in joining a band.
They're going to do everything they can to retain him. That much I know. They don't want to see him go, but Fangio in Miami and South Beach, that's a little bit better weather than Seattle.
It's just a better position too. It's somebody that you've been with over the past several years. I mean, he was with him back in Chicago. And again, I feel like it was more so the defensive coordinator. I think it's Clint Herter or something like that. I think it was the defensive coordinator in Seattle that really kind of more brought him along. So if there was any kind of upheaval and change in the Seattle defensive coaching staff, I mean, I don't think Sean Desai would necessarily be like extremely safe in that position in that instance. But if you join Miami, where you're with somebody that you're one of your mentors, that's a really I think it's an attractive position, honestly, to come and maybe be. I mean, he was a safeties coach before. They've got a safeties position open right now. Maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing right there.
Did Sam Madison get retained?
He did, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, let me go into something else here. So we're bringing on Vic Fangio, one of the top defensive coordinators. What does that say for free agency with potential free agent veterans, especially on the defensive side, that want to be able to come in? Do you think that will be an attractive thing, having Fangio as defensive coordinator, with us maybe going after a middle linebacker or maybe somebody to build the depth up in that secondary? Where do you see about that with Fangio being the defensive coordinator with free agents?
No, I mean, without a doubt, I think it's going to help. First off, it kind of allows everyone to kind of get a sense or kind of start to shape the type of guys that they will target. I mean, this is a guy that, I think some of a lot of safeties have had their best seasons. A lot of people are talking about what that can mean for Javon Holland. I think Justin Simmons back in Denver, he was an All-Pro, playing under Fangio. So yeah, I mean, he is one of the most, if not the most respected defensive mind in the NFL right now. And I think that's going to be very attractive, knowing that he's led a lot of top defenses. You can come in there, you have a vision, you have a role, and he's going to bring the best out of you. It will be interesting. I think that they're probably going to need to target another safety, just because they're going to be doing a lot of those too high type of shells. I think Javon Holland I think we're going to see more of the Javon Holland of kind of his rookie year in terms of his role, where, as a rookie, he wasn't just playing deep. He was playing, kind of like the roam, the robber position. He was playing inside the box. He was rushing a lot, rushing the passer a lot. We didn't see that as much, but, Vic Fangio does like to make those guys interchangeable and move them around. So I think they're definitely going to need another guy, another safety. I know Brandon Jones is coming back from injury, but, the Dolphins didn't really put him in those deep kind of middle of the field type of coverage situations when he was healthy. He was more of a kind of a box safety. So I think it's possible. I mean, I'm really fascinated by what they're going to do, because I think that some of the pieces are there, but I think they have to add a couple guys. They might have to kind of shift some roles. I've kind of been spitballing. Maybe they use Brandon Jones as kind of like a dime linebacker or a big nickel type of position where he can still remain around the box and rush the passer and, line up against tight ends more. So I think we could see a lot more nickel, a lot more dime, where they use more defensive backs and they kind of move those guys around the field a little bit more.
All right, last question I have for you before I let you go, man.
Construction over there.
That's the last question I have for you then. My last question for you, Daniel, is McDaniel. Is Fangio the guy that McDaniel wanted? What type of role did McDaniel have in the say-so of the defensive coordinator here? And what will it mean to have Fangio a part of his coaching staff, somebody that he can lean on going into his second year?
Well, yeah, I mean, from the moment that that McDaniel was hired last year, I mean, he was linked to Fangio. I think there was definitely some interest there, but it was clear that, let me see if I can get these headphones in. But it was clear that the Dolphins wanted to keep a lot of that continuity with Boyer, a lot of the key guys from the defense, and I think that McDaniel was kind of sold on that as well. I mean, he spoke very highly of the defense when he first arrived. But I think one thing that he noted was that
the power of live radio, by the way, y'all.
How's that sound?
You're good. You sound good.
Cool. But I think that one thing that really stuck out to me when McDaniel was first hired was talking about how, like, the defense, you have to evolve. You can't just stick to what you've done in the past, and I think that's going to work. And I think that the defense tried to evolve at times, but injuries kind of stunted that. Boyer himself with some of his play calling kind of stunted that. And I think that's just kind of a comfort level with, McDaniel has never crossed paths with Fangio. But he was on a lot of the coaching staffs, offensive coaching staffs, that were kind of stymied by the Fangio defense. So there was a level of comfort in bringing in something that you kind of know, in a sense. Obviously, he's been a head coach. He's been in the NFL for like 3 decades. So when McDaniel says, all right, he's the head coach of the defense, he's not only the head coach of the defense, but he's somebody that McDaniel can kind of go to and kind of get tips and tidbits and insight on some of the things that he kind of struggled with as a rookie coach. Because there's a lot of questions like, all right, McDaniel, he's coming in, he's play calling, he's fixing the offense, but then we saw some of those kind of rookie struggles with play clock management, kind of getting a sense of time and feel, challenges and stuff like that. I don't know if necessarily on game day, Vic Fangio will help McDaniel with that, but I think like midweek preparation and stuff like that, he can provide a lot of insight.
Daniel, I appreciate you taking time out this morning and talking with us with all the construction that's going on in your building and everything. Tell the people where they can find all your content, man, and get content and access to the Miami Herald Sports.
Yeah. So, first off, all my Dolphins updates first and foremost come from Twitter, social media. So you can follow me at Daniel Oyefusi, just like you see below. Miami Herald, MiamiHerald.com for all the Dolphin stories. Actually working. I had to hold it off because I wanted to make sure they actually bring in Fangio, but working on a film study on kind of what to expect and what his arrival can mean for certain guys on the Dolphins. So definitely be on the lookout for that. We got a sports only pass, kind of like an a la carte menu if you just want to get sports, get your Dolphins, Heat, UM basketball, football, all that stuff. Just go to Miami Herald website and you can find the details on that.
Daniel, thanks again, brother. I miss having you on, man. It's good to hear from you. I know we haven't talked a lot. You were busy this season, and so was I. But we definitely need to talk again outside of here, man. I'm so happy to hear from you. Congratulations on the master's degree. And you're just growing, man. And we love watching you grow here, man. We're big fans of you here at the podcast network.
Nah, it's a lot of fun, man. Good to see you doing your thing as well.
All right, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Oyefusi.
You're welcome.
Daniel's such a good guy. Such a good guy. Well, hey, look, we got to wrap up here. A couple things before we let you go. We just want to remind you, if you're interested in the Super Bowl box pool, it's $25 per block. A portion of the proceeds that are made from this are going to go towards the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. We're going to be sending it to different individuals, different Dolphin fans that are going in the Dolphins Cancer Challenge, with Allie's Southwest Florida Dolphin Club being one of them. So we're going to, $25 per block gets you up there. William Perry, Big Dougie B, if you're watching, I need your other numbers for the boxes that you want. You guys both get an extra box each because you did it when it was $50. You can send the money through Cash App and PayPal. When you send the money, put your name and your box number in the message. Don't write block pool. I want to get this thing filled up. You see on the top left what you'll win at the end of each quarter. So make sure you guys do that. Get your box pool in. Jason, man, final thought of the day.
Just excitement. Obviously, with the excitement and the expectation comes a little bit of the nerves, but the Dolphins are structuring a team that hopefully can be Super Bowl contenders, not just hoping to make the playoffs for years to come. And I think that it's a good day to be a Dolphin fan, and we should enjoy the rest of this offseason because they're building.
They are. William Perry did say with his $5 donation, ask about the Bosa brothers. Give them the hard questions. I can't with you, William. You're too much, man. Look, my final thought of the day is this. I think the Miami Dolphins in the front office and the organization are doing everything they need to do to put a winning football team out on the field on a week-in, week-out basis. And they are showing that by making the offseason acquisitions that they did last year, by the growing, look, there are growing pains with anything with a first-time head coach. But bringing in somebody like Vic Fangio, for me, solidifies the direction of this franchise, and that's forward and moving forward. And, my hope is that next year we win the division. I think that should be the goal. And I can definitely see a lot of different things. But, man, I am super excited about everything that's coming up. Tomorrow on the show, don't forget, it's Spread Kindness Friday. Cameron will be on with me tomorrow. He's usually on today, and Jason's usually on with me tomorrow, but we switch days. Jason, thank you so much for coming in and pinch hitting for Cameron this morning and just switching out with the gentleman there. And I'm excited, man. Tomorrow will be Spread Kindness Friday. It'll be a fun show. And as always, this is the #1 Miami fan morning show, Clock Blockers, right here on the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.
Later, everybody.
I know the whole city riding. A little early, it's a bit surprising. Business moves, now we enterprising. Switch it up, now we improvising. Go to get in the winter column. Whole squad been trained to go. Fence for life, we throw the foe. Singing this just to welcome bro. To a time, to a time. Time to grind, time to shine. To a time, to a time. To a time, to a time. To a time, to a time. Time to grind, time to shine. To a time, to a time. To a time, to a time. My intuition told me this. Trust the coach.